gambles become the only factors moving into the Nevada desert as the final event before the new year kicks off and brings the opportunity to potentially another different winner on the season for the playoffs. Live from the virtual Las Vegas Motor Speedway, we welcome you to the 5th race of Season 5 for Y Racing Cup Series. We continue our coverage right here on MaxSpeedTV. Glad to have you with us on another Wednesday night. We're alongside Francisco Bacchiao atop the broadcast booth. My name is Kenneth Bueno. And Francisco, we definitely have a lot to talk about here. Our first 1.5 mile proper race in this season. We took a chance through a couple of other different tracks, most notably our road course last week at Watkins Glen. We'll talk about that in just a little bit, but tonight provides the full opportunity for drivers to really dial in their intermediate track skills. And here at Las Vegas, where it provided us a classic last season, and may just do the same this time around.
Yeah, happy to be here, Kenneth, on what is the last time we will be up in the booth in 2022, and Las Vegas, USA is going to be that last race that we get to cover. And like you said, we have had a lot of good races here in the past. Once again, we're under the lights here tonight, so this will be the second season in a row in which we'll be doing that. A couple of day races here in the earlier seasons, but the light time is the right time, and we'll get to see who's fast here tonight. We saw Austin Reedy, Lawson Peel among some of the guys last season who were fast. Of course, Lawson Peel able to win, of course, and he is the, I believe, winner from last week, Kenneth. So we should be able to see Lawson Peel be at the front of the field. He's probably going to be one of the favorites going into this race if we were to pick one. So definitely looking out for his name, and we'll see who's able to challenge him and possibly try and take a race win away.
Yeah, Lawson Peel going for 2 wins in a row, and that win came 1 week ago at the virtual Watkins Glen International Circuit in upstate New York, our first road course race of the season. We'll take a look into our rearview mirror and see exactly how things fared up until that checkered flag. This was the green heading for turn 1. It was pole sitter Kyle Benson alongside his Murray Reedy Motorsports teammate Austin Reedy, two of them some of the strongest cars all night long, and Benson with a race high 18 laps led on the field. Some of the first problems arising in the opening laps, that was Cedric Hunter, rookie driver, going sideways at the exit of the bus stop, but here later in the race became one of the most pivotal passes for the lead in turn 1. Austin Reedy looking to the inside, but Francisco, things would strike that 96 by the time we got to that halfway break. It looked like in that opening half we saw Murray Reedy Motorsports domination, but then Reedy makes a mistake entering pit road with the field, gets a penalty, gets sent to the rear, and it shakes up the entire complexity of the race.
And it wasn't just him, of course, it was his teammate Kyle Benson as well that found trouble during the pit stop sequence. So both of those guys are looking for rebound opportunities here tonight. Kyle Benson's still trying to get back to victory lane. He's had a rough couple of seasons trying to find victory lane. He's been able to do so on a more limited basis, but he wants to return to that golden era of his back in season 2, where he was able to get several wins and battle for the championship. And it could start tonight at an intermediate racetrack. He's got a couple of wins on mile and a halves in his career, so tonight could kickstart that. He's been fast all season. If he can just get that win, he can definitely put himself in position to win. And Austin Reedy, somebody who was in contention last season's race, and he's also won on mile and a halves as well. So that Murray Reedy Motorsports duo might just be able to make that comeback possible. We'll just see if they are able to execute all night long, which is what they didn't do last week.
And Reedy had finished second, tried to get back into the game against Lawson Peel in the 12, but Peel was able to walk away scot-free, got his second win of the season after his first at Michigan, and just like we talked about a little bit earlier, last season became a victorious route for the driver of the 12 and your defending series champion. So there's a lot to discuss when it comes down to Peel, how he may execute, and what may happen if drivers try to make sure that plan gets ruined by all means necessary. Just before we get to trackside and to your starting grid, let's take a look a little deeper into where we are in the virtual world. Once again, visiting this Las Vegas Motor Speedway out in Las Vegas, Nevada. Not too far away from the Las Vegas Strip proper, but a little bit on the outskirts of the main city. It's a 1.5 mile, 2.4 kilometer shaped oval, which opened back in 1996 as this oval. It was a drag strip and a little something else before that year. You'll find 20 degrees of banking in turns 1 through 4, and there's also a lot of lanes you could choose from here at this track, so be aware of that. We may see some drivers try the inside, try the outside, try the very top. There's a lot of options you can have here, and that provides for some fantastic racing that we will expect to see from the desert. Drivers are lined up behind the iRacing official pace car. That means it's our time to take a look at your starting grid, see exactly where every driver and your favorite driver will be lining up here in the 5th race of Season 5 of the 4-Wide Racing Cup Series. Brandon Banks in the number 54 lines the Chevrolet on pole with a 30.307. He'll be the first to see the green. He's joined alongside by Lights Out Esports driver Steven Stempian in the number 8 car. Lining up the inside of row number 2, the rookie driver Cedric Hunter looking to rebound after last week at Watkins Glen. Xander Short, the rookie driver, returns for action in his car as he will be outside in P4. Dominic Bettini in the number 02 makes his first start of the season in P5. Kyle Benson looking to rebound after a dominant race at Watkins Glen will look to get his first win of the season as he rolls off in that position. Craig Lounslugger and Roston Reedy, the 13 and the 96, the 2-2 double up in row number 4. And then the final two in your top 10, Francisco Bacallao, Joe Sanchez in the 55, and the league owner, the 16 of Tyler Murray.
Christopher Bishop with a solid qualifying effort will put him up in P11, and Tyler Warner in the top 12 positions there. As we move down to 13th, it's Lawson Beal, defending race winner and defending winner in the league. He back-to-back and make it 2 in a row here with Curtis Kelly in 14th alongside him. AJ Green, your season 3 champion, who's going to be in the 15th position with Rodney Roberts returning once again. We'll see if he's able to put a good result here tonight. In 16th, Jesse Priest starts in the 17th position with Tony Kivett alongside in 18th. We look down to round out your top 20. It is the 53 of Kevin D'Elia and Daniel Michaud, who's hoping to have another solid performance.
Rolling off from 21st is the 7 of Chuck Keller. He's joined alongside by Michael Newbraw in the number 6 in row number 11. Colin Forster rolling deep in the field tonight. 20-30 he'll have to make up, and it will be Cody Ivey on the outside in P24. John Holliday in the 46 will be 25th. Scott Healy in the 64, 26. Healy, the first driver to not take time in qualifying. The final 2 drivers in our 28-car field, Nicholas Vizzuti in the 27th spot, and Jason Hastings lining up the rear of tonight's field. So cars ready to go, and Francisco, there's a lot to discuss when it comes down to this Las Vegas Motor Speedway. And from that race last season, we saw a lot of problems with cars handling all over the place, drivers getting loose on cold tires, drivers getting loose all over the place. So what are the keys to surviving here at a track like this in this car and potentially getting to the end of this race with a victory?
A lot of it has to do with the short run speed of the car, not so much trying to push it immediately. You have to make sure you let the tires come up to temperature. It's been a struggle with this car with the higher profile tires that they take a little bit longer to warm up, probably closer to 4 or 5 laps before they truly warm up. So be careful when you go into speed on lap 2 going into turn 1, and even 3 and 4 on the opening lap. If you take it nice and easy, you might lose a spot or 2, but it's better to lose 1 or 2 spots and keep your race car clean than to fall down outside of the top 20 and have a damaged race car.
We'll see exactly what happens here from Las Vegas. Pace car is down and away. Brandon Banks in the 54 going to be the first to lead us to green, and we are underway in race 5 of season 5 of the 4-Wide Racing Cup Series.
As we come off 4, we see that most of the field was able to keep it clean. Stempian is actually going to lead the first lap, not your pole sitter, Brandon Banks. And we saw a car off of turn 2 get up into the wall and lose several positions. I couldn't exactly make out who it was. And excuse me, as we try and move back, it could have been the 16 of Murray, as it looks like there's trouble off turn 2.
There might be trouble. I think Xander Short might be involved in it. The 21 plummeting through the running order. And so we'll see exactly what might have happened to Short. And Short going to slow down, and there he is limping, and some heavy right front tolling damage on the Ford Mustang. So the rookie driver in trouble lap 3.
He might have gotten into the outside wall, Kenneth, and we talked about this. You have to make sure you treat the kart nice and easy on lap 2 when you go into turn 1. The tires are not warm. So here he is actually battling for P2 on the outside of Banks, and he kind of concedes that at first, and here comes the 31 to his inside, challenging for third, and he gets loose and makes contact with the 31, and he slams the outside wall. He gets definitely the worst end of that one, The 31 able to keep going. Cedric Hunter and almost a wreck right there as he's trying to get off the racetrack. You see him just wiggling the car, hoping that everyone gets the attention and lets him get down to the apron so he can make that pit stop, check off that fast repair. Not an ideal start for Xander Short.
Definitely not. He drops to 27th and already a lap down and counting. We'll keep an eye on Short. We'll see if he can pick things back up. But meanwhile, battle for the race lead. Heating back up, that's the 54. Brandon Banks, your pole sitter. And Steven Stempien, who took the lead immediately at the drop of the green flag. And that's something that's very important. Again, we talked about it just before the green flag. Drivers from last season's race getting loose in these cars off of the corners and overcorrecting or just spinning out all by their lonesome, creating cautions on the racetrack. And fortunately, no caution comes out, but more drivers get loose out of turn 2. And that looked to be a batch of cars, including the 48 of AJ Green and Christopher Bishop in it as well.
You see right there, Bishop's trying to hold that bottom down. And there's going to be grip closer to that white line. We ran a race here last week, and that white line has a lot of grip to it, and it saves your tires pretty well. So for drivers who are able to put the left side anywhere near that white line like you saw that Warner was able to do there, then it could spell trouble for cars on the outside because they won't have that big of an advantage as it normally has when you're side by side. It can just kind of pin that guy to the inside down a bit, force them to get off the throttle. You see mostly in 3 and 4, most everybody's able to do that. 1 and 2, it's very difficult though, considering all the bumps on the racetrack. So as we go on to 1 now, Benson will have a disadvantage.
Benson's going to go down. Looks like he'll be challenged up top in a fight for second. That's against Brandon Banks. Steven Stempien now still leading, but it looks like he may have a challenge as well. The 54 going to make a space on the high side, and we are door to door for the race lead back to turn 3. Make that 2 rows deep, and the 5th place car, that red and yellow cookout machine, Joe Sanchez on the backside of all of this. Brandon Banks powers on the high side out of turn 4, and back to the race lead. Banks will go as they cross the line for lap 8 of 134, but already Austin Reedy, Kyle Benson immediately trying to redeem themselves after Watkins Glen. And you touched about it, Francisco. At that track, they were so good, so quick. It looked like no matter what, they were going to have the fastest cars all race long. They were the best drivers, no doubt about it. And obviously, Lawson Pugh, you got to give him credit for being able to move to the front after starting 24th to get that race win. But that 96 and the 10, boy, they were the highlights of that race, dominating the first half. But then things just came to a crumbling defeat at the halfway mark once the 96 got a pit road speeding penalty, once the 10 got mired in some trouble near the end. It really did not pan out the way they wanted. So here at Las Vegas, we can imagine there's a lot more fire underneath both of their bellies as they challenge for second and third, and we'll look to your race leader.
I think last week what we saw is an example of the caution working out good and working out bad for some drivers in a great way. We saw how it was bad for the Marie Reedy Motorsports duo. They were dominating that race. The caution comes out and it throws a wrench into all of their game plans, and it ruins their race for the most part. Reedy tried to make up for it as much as possible and almost won. He got up to P2, so great effort by him there in recovering. But we also saw it work out really well for Lawson Pugh. He had driven up to 6th. That with the field spread that we had at that point, it was going to be very hard for him to catch up to the leaders, which were those 2 that were dominating. They were just so fast, it wasn't going to be very easy for him to pass them, let alone catch up to them. So I feel like that caution played into the hands of all of the drivers, some good, some bad, and it was on display for everybody to see.
Watch a battle here developing inside the top 3. That's Joe Sanchez, the 55. Remember, he was just inside the top 5 behind the main 2-row battle between Murray Reedy Motorsports and the 54 and the 8 machine. Stempien, by the way, has dropped all the way back to P7. You'll see him on the far side of your screen just in front of that pink Ford Mustang in Cedric Hunter. But Joe Sanchez already up to a couple of spots and making that a DBR 2 out of your top 3. So the 55 already up on some good moves to start at lap number 12. It looks like we may have a battle also developing inside the top 5. That's Tyler Murray trying to play defense against Craig Lownslugger and Steven Stempien. I think they're again going to go side by side for third. Sanchez under fire from Benson in turn 3.
And Benson's going to be able to hold on for now as Sanchez tucks it in line. And, you know, early on, it's very hard to pull away, and that's very much true. We've seen this car in real life in all of 2022. It has a big draft, despite not having that big of a spoiler, but you're able to kind of stuck up to the car in front of you occasionally at times, as we see Reedy on the outside is going to take the lead away from Brandon Banks, and he'll tuck in line for second as Benson tries to find a way around. but you can kind of keep up with the car in front of you using that draft. Even though it's not as much as the Gen 6 used to be, Kenneth, you can still somewhat keep up. If you look at that shot of the field, there's not a lot of field spread, but also specifically in the way that cars can kind of follow each other, or at least stick enough together to maintain a pack. As you see just behind this group, there's another gargle of cars, about 8 or 9 or so, that are able to hold the distance they currently have against each other and not really be at too much of a disadvantage. As where with the old car, even if you were just behind somebody by about half a second, you'd be negatively affected and hoping that he can either get out of your way or you can find something else to do so that you're not sitting there losing time and overheating your tires.
And we saw that a lot, especially here in one of our races with the Gen 6 car a couple of seasons back, where it felt like clean air was really going to be the key to making moves and making passes on the track. Obviously, dirty air still exists with this car, but it's a little less as effective, as it looks like the 42 Christopher Bishop might have chased it down the racetrack into the apron. And he's going to drop a bunch of spots here, rejoin the track safely in turn 3 without any damage, so we will stay green on the track. But obviously, you still have dirty air with this car, but it is way less than with Gen 6 and what that package provided us. So you can still kind of tally behind a car and still be able to make up a significant amount of time. And then, of course, with the diffuser on the bottom end of the car, with the way this car just naturally is aerodynamically in traffic, you're just going to have a lot of side-by-side battling and a lot of big draft plays. You watch the battle here inside the top 7. AJ Green underneath Craig Lounslauger, who has since fallen back outside the top 5. We saw roughly a quartet of cars starting with the number 16 of Tyler Murray, but Murray has dropped to P10. And now here comes defending series champion and last week's winner and last race's winner here from Las Vegas, Lawson Peel, moving up to 8.
Yeah, a lot of positives for Lawson Peel in the last couple. He's trying to continue that into this season, and he's off to a start in doing so. He's got that win already, and he's already off to a nice start here tonight, working his way up through the field, trying to see if he can catch up to those in the front and maybe get into the top 5 soon enough. It's still a long way to go, over 100 laps left, but right now we're in the middle of a green flag run. If no cautions come out and if we get enough spread, then we could see green flag pit stops possibly around the lap 45 mark. If we get that far into the run, that is. And we've seen historically that once you get past the first couple of laps of a restart, then the chances of green flag pit stops or a long run increase dramatically, as we're on board right now with Rodney Roberts, who started towards the middle portion of the field. It's kind of stayed there. He's running 20th right now. Just kind of running the middle line, as you see from the bumper cam. Not really running the bottom, not going all the way up towards the wall. Just kind of running his line, buying his time and being very patient and trying to take care of the tires, not really looking for trouble.
Watch that quintessential line that he takes in turns 1 and 2. Just that middle line, trying to avoid the bumps at the very bottom of the racetrack. It looks like one car loose in front of him up the road. That appears to be Colin Forrester, the winner from Daytona, to kick off season 5. And now under fire from rookie driver Dominic Bettini in his number 02 car. So Forrester, up to a rough start so far. We're just trying to hold on to what he can. Remember, still an early run, still early in this race, so a lot still to be decided, as it looks like Steven Stempien might be mounting a comeback. Last time by, set a 31.444, the fastest out of anyone in the top 5, so maybe that was just a plan by Stempien early on in the run, just to hold back, wait for these drivers up front to battle amongst themselves, waste their equipment, and the 8 machine, who started P2, now will look possibly for second against Kyle Benson.
And he's got a familiar foe not too far behind, that 31 of Stempien and Hunter, usually around each. They battled for their first career wins back at Nashville, with Stempien coming out on top. But Hunter has been fast in races as well, Kenneth, and we've talked about it. We've talked to him about it. He feels he's very close to a race win, and why not tonight, right? We've seen guys get their first wins of a season or have solid runs on mile and a halves, or Vegas specifically, as Hunter now goes to the outside of Joe Sanchez. At the same time, Stempien looks to the inside of Kyle Benson for second place. Both of those guys, Kenneth, they're new to the league, but both of them have been very impressive in the first handful of races.
We've seen the rookies take the field by storm, and remember, Stempien made his first start last season at the Texas Motor Speedway. That was the finale race of that campaign, where Lawson Peel was able to grab that checkered flag, but Stempien, no doubt, one of the most dominant drivers in that race. And then immediately from the drop of the green, at Daytona. We could tell the driver behind this 31 was something to watch for, and that has been the case over the season. While, yes, he has not been able to grab his first career 4-wide Racing Cup Series win, he's been close. He's been knocking on the door, and every single week, every race, it feels like he's had pace. Remember the top 4 that he finished with at Watkins Glen and led a couple of laps by staying out on pit strategy. Stepien had finished inside the top 8. So both of these drivers bearing what is quintessentially the rookie stripes, although you don't really see them on the back of either of their cars. They are rookies in this series. They have definitely been putting it up to the veterans and have been providing fantastic races over the course of the first 5. And the 8 machine of Stepien already looking to the 96 of Austin Riddy, who will slide up and will get loose at the exit of turn 2. That might reel in the 8 car. Indeed, it does. So again, we go door to door for the lead. Stepien trying to take it back.
And he's got a nice run because of the momentum loss on the 96. So he'll dive it to the inside, misses the white line. That's going to hurt his momentum through 3 and 4, and that's going to allow Reedy to kind of challenge back, fight back a little bit. They'll be side by side on the front straightaway. You see Stepien go below the white line. You can do that. You can go below the white line here at Las Vegas and kind of cut that tri-oval. He's going to try and clear him into turn 1. He's riding those bumps, but it looks like the momentum's enough, Kenneth. He is clear as Benson loose on the inside of turn 2, and it's going to allow Cedric Hunter to cruise around the outside. And here he's found his way to the front, Kenneth. He's now inside the top 4.
And Peel, what a great run it's been so far over the first 25 laps. Again, the defending winner from last season's race here at Las Vegas Motor Speedway. And Benson with a little loose moment. It seems like him and Reedy starting to feel the effects of the race car, and it is not really agreeing with them. At this point, you're right on board with the number 96 of Reedy. You watch him step through the bumps in turns 2, and right there, just steps out a little bit. And that car really starting to struggle, as it looks like that will reel in Cedric Hunter in the 31. And like you said, that number 12 of Lawson Peel. So the Murray Reedy Motorsports cars, despite having a lot of pace early, it looks like they might have just ran themselves dry in terms of tire life. And the 31 will look to the outside this time for P2. Will back out by the time they get back to turn 1. But as we get further into this run and as the 31 goes inside the 96 for a second, we are going to have to talk about, at some point, pit road strategy, Francisco. We've seen 75% fuel used on these NASCAR Next Gen race cars for this series, which means we should see 40 to 45 laps on a tank of fuel, maybe 50 if you could stretch it that long. So already 27 laps in this race. I figure if you're these drivers up front, that ends with the number 55 of Joe Sanchez in 7th, breaking away from everybody else. And pit road strategy has to be on your mind at some point.
It's on your mind probably the whole time, really, especially because of how close you cut it. Like I said, about 45 laps is probably what you'll see out of most of the guys tonight, so that they can make it an equal 2-stop race, cut it 45 and 90. As you see a moment there for Scott Healy, in front of Daniel Michaud. They're going to keep it straight and get it corrected as he's just falling out outside of the top 10. But most of these guys are about 15 or so laps away from pit stops, and it's going to be a consensus for tire stop, of course, with fuel. But when exactly do you pit? You try and undercut, you try and overcut. They have their advantages. If you're able to stay out long, you'll have fresher tires. Although the advantage is small, it's the whole run that you can keep it for if you save your tires good enough. And it'll really pay off in the long run. We've seen that in many instances. Guys will stay out and hold about a 2 or 3 lap tire advantage, and you say, oh, 2, 3, a lot. Well, you combine that with tire saving, and you're about 2/10 faster than the field on the long run, which when you see guys like Austin Reedy who are sliding and you add 2/10 to a guy who's passing him, yeah, that's a lot of speed difference every single lap. So strategy's going to matter, and we're going to see when guys decide to pit. With no cautions yet at this point in the race, Kenneth, that probably means we're not going to see guys be able to go long with this first run. As you see Banks wash up the racetrack, almost hitting the 10. We're probably going to see guys coming in, I'd say around 43 to 47 is probably the window we'll see. And that's going to dictate the rest of this race, as we already have somebody in, and it's Scott Healy. Now, this is extremely early, so I don't think this is scheduled, but it's an interesting call. We'll see if this works out for him, because it will put him a lap down, and he's going to need a caution at some point to get it back. But actually, it looks like he might be retired from the race. I didn't see the pit crew come out. I'm not sure. I don't want to speculate, but that's not a scheduled pit stop.
It looks to be lasting more than 12 seconds. We'll see if the tires are lifted. Caution flag, though, is going to wave for the first time tonight, and it's Chuck Keller involved in the mess. That purple number 7. Gets caught up in a crash and some heavy right front damage. I believe Tyler Murray might have also been picked up in this as well. And look at the 16, that left front completely destroyed and bent sideways. And it looks like that might have been the cause of it, so caution out for the first time. And at 32, here from the virtual Las Vegas Motor Speedway, we'll see what happened to the driver of the 16 who struggled since the drop of the green, got loose out of turn 4, and just smacked the outside wall and let everybody by. And not sure this is the exact cause of the caution. It looked like this was fine for now. But he continues to ride up against that outside safer barrier. He continues to lose pace. And that car does not want to turn. He smacks the outside wall again. And then bam, right into the 7. Chuck Keller absolutely nowhere he could go. And just slams into it. And as of lap 32, caution flag out for the first time tonight.
That's a tough break for Tyler Murray. He's had a struggle for a while now, Kenneth. It's just not had things go his way, and gets loose off of turn 4, smacks the wall, breaks the right front of the car, doesn't have much control of it. I thought he would slow down a little bit more going into turn 1 to try and get it on the apron. You're usually a little bit safer, you can keep it on the apron, but gets the wall the wrong way, car loses control, and unfortunately the 7 has nowhere to go. Fortunately, both of them have fast repairs, so their night isn't entirely over, but it's not ideal the way you want that to work. As we see the race off pit road, it was 3 wide for a couple positions, but it looks like Lawson Peel has moved his way up into 2nd. And I'll tell you what, this is definitely a caution that Austin Reedy and Kyle Benson started to struggle on tires there, and they're going to now have a at least better opportunity to be able to battle for this lead and able to get track position with the fresh tires.
I was about to mention in that run and pose that question to you, with the fact that the 96 and the 10 were struggling so much in that long run. Could you imagine them coming in first? Because they were struggling with those race cars and they were thinking, all right, now is my time. I'm going to queue immediately to come in for service. So you're right, that caution definitely saves them a little bit. And at least they'll have fresh tires. They'll be even with the rest of the field, and they won't have to deal with the tire discrepancy that you were talking about, that 0.2 of a second difference and how big it could be here at Las Vegas. So a lot of these 1.5-mile tracks, Las Vegas, Homestead, Miami. You think of a couple of others on the schedule, Chicagoland as well, also noted as a track that's this long that can really eat up the tires. Las Vegas, although it's roughly a smooth surface, not as smooth as Kansas, but still relatively smooth, can still eat up the Goodyear Eagles. So it has done that.
You forgot one. It was, and we're gonna go to that track in a weeks once we get into the new year. The old Atlanta.
Oh, that's true. Atlanta Motor Speedway. I know that Atlanta was reconfigured, so it's a flat super speedway. Doesn't wear tires at all. But you're right, Atlanta Motor Speedway. When we do go to that track later on in the campaign, race number 10 after the Charlotte Roval, and that track definitely beats up the tires. I think that might be the worst track to beat up the tires, other than maybe Chicagoland. I think those two are the worst if you're not thinking about, let's say, Darlington, which is a little less in length.
Auto Club as well.
Yeah.
But yeah, we have a lot of tracks on the schedule, Kenneth, that eat up tires. The older it is, the more that it generates those bumps. It holds heat. It goes through winter cycles of cold, hot. Gets those seams in it because when it opens up in the heat, it expands and it creates these holes. You have to fill them up, which is what the seams are, really. That's what they are. They're for when the track gets hot, they'll open up and you'll start creating holes and you have to fill them up. So like right there where you see the 8 running and you see that seam, that's a piece of that's actually specifically there. It's the edge of where the paver was able to go. But if you look at Auto Club, where there's a bunch of little lines everywhere, apart from those seams, that's the stuff we're talking about. You lose a lot of traction on those. Those things have no grip whatsoever, and you can actually feel the car sliding across one of those. You're just moving all fine, and you're okay, and all of a sudden you slide against one, and the car's going to break traction. You lose control, and you hold the grip of the race car.
And don't get us started on the short tracks that we'll see in the calendar as well. I can immediately think that, Richmond still beats up tires a little bit despite not being that rough of a surface, but you look to race 17 and Dover Motor Speedway, that race and that track certainly destroys the tires. Iowa, relatively rough surface, a lot of bumps, some nasty ones at that. So a lot of things that you can consider there. But if we're talking about 1.5 milers, Atlanta, Chicagoland have to be the top 2 in the tight ends. But here at Las Vegas, you still see a lot of that tire wear. ready for a restart at lap 36 of 134 after our first caution involving Chuck Keller in the 7 and the 16 of Tyler Murray. It'll be Steven Stepien in the race lead. He'll choose the outside in row number 1. Lawson Peel has stepped into P2. He'll be on the bottom of that first row. Kyle Benson and Austin Ritty, the two Murray Ritty Motorsports teammates, they'll be in that second row, 3rd and 4th. And then Joe Sanchez rounds out your top 5. He's joined alongside that 3rd row by the 54 of Brandon Banks, and your pole sitter. Pace car coming out of turn 4, ready to complete lap 35 and ready to get this race back underway and under green. Stepien with an early jump, the 12 sluggish to start, back underway from Las Vegas.
A really good jump there for Stepien. He's able to get several car lengths out, which is going to help. So he can take it just a little bit easier and make sure he can ease the tires up to temperature. And a lot of spread throughout the top 10 anyways. You see guys really giving a lot of space, trying to make sure that they can creep the tires up to temperature all the way through the field. You see the field is already spread out pretty good amount, probably more than it took in about 10 laps on that first run. So guys trying to go single file, get in line, and let the tires come up to temperature before they just start to battle. But Stepien with a good restart, the Peel already starting to make some progress.
And you can immediately tell the motive switched after that first yellow. Everybody wants to remain as calm as possible. First side-by-side battle, though, you'll see inside the top 8, that's Jesse Prees going against the 48 of AJ Green. Here, the season number 3 champion. Jesse Prees, one of the playoff drivers from 1 season ago, and that will be settled quickly. Green going to be able to slide into 8th. He'll work on the Los Angeles, California native next, and that is the 25 of Daniel Michel for Drinking Bros Racing and Peel. You're right, Francisco. He is on his way, and he is arriving at this point. Turn 1, he'll look to the inside. Can he make it through the bumps without stepping out underneath that number 8 machine? It looks like he'll remain stable. That 8 will have the run out of the corner, but Lawson Peel staying there for the moment. Back to turn 3.
And he's going to clear him right there. You see, just waiting to see if he was able to that line right, and he did. He was able to hold it down on the white line, and he clears Stepien. So what a good charge for Lawson Peel. Started just inside the top 10, and he's up to the race lead where he's been very familiar with here at this racetrack in this league the last couple of seasons, this car. So Lawson Peel once again out front.
And you know, we had put that statement out, Francisco, at the first couple of races of the season before Michigan, that being a defending series champion carries a lot of pressure on your shoulders. And we had questioned how that would affect the driver of the 12 after he got his first win at Michigan, had that weight lifted off, and it felt like he's been on a rally ever since, as Kyle Benson makes a huge charge in the past 2 corners and looks to the outside for the lead, and he'll take it in 1 and 2. But for Lawson Peel, it's felt like ever since that win at Michigan, he's been on a roll, and he will look for 2 in a row after that win from Watkins Glen. Kyle Benson, though, looking to prove otherwise.
Kyle Benson's putting on a bit of a charge here, isn't he? He came out of nowhere and shot like a rocket to take the position away, and he's starting to pull away, so he's deciding to hell with it. He's not going to bother saving tires at this moment in time. He's going to use them while he can and see if he could use the clean air to save him a little better, which is, for him, it's probably the right move. We saw him battling in the dirty air, and it definitely cost him. So now that he's in the clean air, we might see him back off just a little bit and do enough to stay in the top spot. But what you were saying about Peel, it's very much true. We've seen Peel be very dominant, and he's obviously the defending champion. But sometimes also being a defending champion can cause you to feel a little bit relaxed. You know you've been there. You know you've done that, and now it's time to do it again. So it starts to feel more like business, and you're able to get out there and do it. And he would already be 3 wins if he's able to do it today. So definitely taking off where he finished off last season.
And also think about the amount of confidence as the 25 smacks the outside wall. That is Daniel Michel. We saw him in a side-by-side tussle with AJ Green in the 48. So with the 25 moving back, he'll drop a couple of spots. That is the 00, Jesse Prees, the 54, Brandon Banks. And now it looks to be Tyler Warner in the 33 in a long line of cars looking all the way back through the field. And the 25 will have a chance to pick things up back to turn 1, but still going to be in that side-by-side move as the 33 gets loose in the middle of turn 2 and goes back up the racetrack, slams into Curtis Kelly, into Rodney Robertson, and Cedric Hunter. And all of a sudden at 43, we have our second caution as Chuck Keller comes pummeling in to the 71 and a big stack up on the back straightaway.
So we're going to get a second look at it now, and look, we saw it live when we were focusing on Bishop as he gets on that white line and in those bumps, and the car just steps out from him. And when we're racing in these big packs, or Warner, I'm sorry, not Banks. We see Warner get on that white line and in the bumps, and it's really going to upset the. He's hitting the bumps, gets enough of the white line, gets loose, and with the floor on this race car, that's definitely going to do it. And you see, gets on it again, and it overcorrects the car and up into the field. You see Cedric Hunter involved as well. Tyler Murray involved again. The 7 once again involved. Those two do not have fast repairs confirmed. Their nights are probably done. So unfortunate circumstance for the 33 of Warner to have that happen to him, and definitely very unfortunate for the guys who were involved in that at the back of the. That's not a place they were expecting a crash, and all of a sudden it's right in front of them.
That was a huge one, and I was about to say there, just grabbed a bit of that apron as well with the bumps. It just unsettles that race car, and unfortunately the 2 Hot Wheels machines involved in that. There's a look at Chuck Keller, at least what's left of his car. Curtis Kelly, I believe, had to take a tow for pit road, so not using the fast repair at least for the moment, but that's because he's waiting to get that car officially towed back to the pit lane, and that is a huge hit for each and every one of them. And so unfortunate for Tyler Warner in the 33. So it looks like he's also going to be involved in the mess after putting up a solid top 10 run up until this point. And for the second time tonight here from Las Vegas, we are under the caution flag. We'll take a look a little bit at our season schedule, though, as we continue through season number 5 of the Ford Wide Racing Cup Series. Had a look at it in the opening jump of our show, but here's a look a little more at the details of what we are expecting heading for 2023. Of course, tonight at Las Vegas is our final race of 2022. We'll take a break for the holiday season and, of course, for the Christmas break on Sunday proper, but we won't go racing the Wednesday after that. In fact, we'll wait all the way till January. We'll go racing back at a road course, Road America, the America's National Park of Speed. We'll go green there at 9:10 p.m. Eastern. You can find all that coverage. Same place at MaxSpeedTV's YouTube channel. Then we head for Richmond Raceway in Richmond, Virginia. That'll be next up on the schedule. Kansas up after that, another 1.5-mile track where your leader currently, Kyle Benson, went to victory lane at last season. We go road course racing once more in the middle of the campaign at the Charlotte Roval. It's been a while since we've seen that track. That track will be featured right before Atlanta Motor Speedway in February. We'll head for New Hampshire, Texas, Circuit of the Americas, which, by the way, brought us a fantastic finish near the end of last season's event. Auto Club Gateway, Indy Road Course, the first time we see that track on the schedule. Iowa makes its first appearance in a long time in Ford Wide Racing Cup Series history. And Dover, Darlington, and Daytona before we wrap up the regular season and we kick off the playoffs at Bristol. We'll have each and every round ending at Pocono for the first, Phoenix for the second, and then we will decide our championship amongst the 5 that make it into the final round at Homestead Miami Speedway. So a great schedule, a lot of diversity, and a lot of returning and new tracks to the schedule as well. Of course, we mentioned Indy Road Course. That's going to be insane. A very flat road course that really tests these cars, and one that's very hard to drive. I know I drove it earlier in this year for NIS, and that race, despite not being as long as maybe this race will be for this series, it certainly is a challenge to keep that car afloat, not overshoot on those corners. Iowa, with a lot of the bumps we see, a very fantastic short track to race at. We had it with the Gen 6 cars a couple of seasons back where Craig Lauenslager went to victory lane. So maybe he could do it for a second time. It's the first time we see that car with the next-gen machine. So a lot of excitement for Season 5. So if you've already seen some of the greatness of the track racing in Season 5 for 2022, then you'll love what's going to come in 2023 where we get to the bulk of our schedule. And, of course, when we get to decision time for the playoffs and we get to break down the field into the final 5 that we'll see race for the Season 5 title. Ready for a restart at lap 48 of 134 after our second caution of the night. This time a new race leader in the form of Kyle Benson. In the 10, he'll lead us to the green. Lawson Peel, who was your leader last time through, or at least took the lead away, he's now outside of the first row. Steven Stepien and Austin Reedy, the 2 drivers, to join it with each other in that second row. Third row, you'll find AJ Green. A nice move for him up to the top 6. And Joe Sanchez inside the top 5 on the outside lane. It's been a beautiful night here from Las Vegas, at least in sim as concerned. No sunset, just straight darkness But it has provided for a great race so far. We've seen a lot of power moves and some strategy in the mix as well with pit road and the cautions coming out. We'll see if we can get into another long green flag stretch. If we do, that should get us to lap 80. That could make things close on fuel by the time these guys get to the end of it. Of course, that is, of course, if we stay green. For the moment, we've seen some of these sporadic yellows come as of late. Kyle Benson, who took the lead commandingly to the outside of Lawson Peel out of turn 4, a couple of black packs. He will try to maintain himself at the front of the field. Pace car is down. The 10 will be at discretion into the Geico restart zone. He'll head for the gas pedal up through the gears, back under green from Las Vegas. Battle for third underway. The 96 now with the 12. Lawson Peel shuffling to the high side and not finding any ground. AJ Green moving into fifth. This time by to turn 4. May even look for more as they're almost 3 wide. In fact, they settled back to 2. That was Jesse Preece and Colin Forster inside your top 10. But Kyle Benson trying to run away, but can't quite do so against the Lights Out Esports number 8, a step in. Right on board with Benson as he hops off the gas pedal onto the brakes for turns 3 and 4, and Stempian going to maintain with him. We talked about that, the opening runs, especially fresh off of getting new tires on the racetrack, keeps everybody together, keeps his field so even, and Stempian not going to move yet. At least underneath or on top of the number 8 machine for the lead as Lawson Peel drifts way up high that third lane here at Las Vegas Motor Speedway. He challenges this time against AJ Green coming out of turn 2. And Joe Sanchez looking underneath Colin Forster, but backs out inside your top 6. How about the 99 and the 48, Colin Forster and AJ Green, the progress they've been able to make over the past handful of laps, and at least now that we've reached lap 50 of 134. We haven't really seen Green all of much in tonight's race, but now he's starting to figure himself out, at least with his car is concerned. He's making his way to the top as a 99, tags the outside wall, got into Steven Stepien, will stay green. A bit of contact between the two as Forster moves into second. That could have been disastrous for the Comscope Freeway machine and the 99 as he will look to the outside of Kyle Benson. Finally, the top 2 have broken away from the rest of the pack. And here comes Forster powering on the top side against the 10. Colin Forster, new race leader from Las Vegas.
And a couple of laps just before the second caution of this, Forster was almost outside of the top 20. We saw Roberts in the 18th position. So Forster, these yellows have worked out in his favor. He's passed the field and he's now at the front.
And you would think that with the 99s charged up to the front, you can imagine fresh tires would be in the mix. The answer, though, is no, as Stempian gets a shot to the rear end of Benson heading for turn 1. And they both make contact with Colin Forster back to the front. And now here comes AJ Green looking underneath Austin Reedy. That'll be a fight for P4 on the racetrack. And we talked about Colin Forster, AJ Green. It seems like they've made synchronizing progression through the field. And Green now up to 4th, making his way underneath that 96. Lawson Peel, by the way, started on the outside of row number 1. He's dropped back to P6 on the racetrack. So shuffling through the field. So far, it looks like the same old for most of the field, apart from the 99 and the 48.
Yeah, this race has been in duos or teammates that have been able to work together and get up to the front. But the amount of full throttle that you have at this racetrack, you can make that work. You can use your teammate or use somebody to be able to get up there and run a little bit faster or get them to help you, because it's almost kind of like a speedway. I mean, if you look at most of the top 10, it is single file like a speedway for the most part, at least at this moment in time. So if you're able to get that help, it could really go a long way into advancing or positions or winning a battle versus somebody that's now AJ Green once again to the inside of Stepien trying to take P3 away.
Yeah, Stonks Motorsports looking to make it 2 out of the drivers in the top 3. It looks like the 48 not going to be able to officially complete that pass on Steven Stepien, so he'll wait an extra lap. But they seem to be closing in together. We saw that top two breakaway, and they'll stack up here, so it'll open the door for the 48 back to turn one. And that's also a thing that we haven't seen so far tonight, at least in the early runs, but it's happening so far in terms of this one at lap 56. A lot of contact in the draft, a lot of pushing. He provided some wiggles, some checkups, and of course, some opportunities at passes on the track. And here comes Kyle Benson back to the inside, looking for P1 once again underneath that 99. And the 48 of AJ Green, how about a battle of his own underneath Stepien, and side by side, 2 rows deep, back to the stripe.
Forster getting challenged by Kyle Benson, and almost taking it 3 wide was AJ Green. He's that one kind of backs out. And look what being side by side at the front is. Look how stacked up the field is, Kenneth. It looks like we just went green.
Side by side for multiple positions on end, including this one for P8. How about Scott Healy, who, remember, came down pit road just before we had that caution, and the 90 or the 64 rather, and your season 2 champion already up inside the top 10. What a great move go through the field it's been for Healy, who basically got saved by the caution. Could have been trapped a lap down. Unfortunately, that was not the case, and AJ Green stacking up for third. He'll slide up the banking a little bit underneath the bumps. Benson will get loose out of turn 2. Can AJ Green make it 3 wide? No, he can't. Forster still with the race lead.
And into 3C, Benson trying to dive it just a little bit. Kind of gets it to that white line that should give him at least an even draw out of turn 2. And like I said, this quickly became a super speedway race. You're seeing several lines form up, a lot of draft coming into this. And 3 wide, AJ Green looks to the bottom. He backs out last second, but he's really trying to be aggressive and force his move in there.
Here's a look on board from Stepien in the 8. He'll follow the train up top. He'll give a shot to the 99, who potentially looks underneath the 10, but also backs out heading for turn 3. And the 8 still has the 48 down low, and like you said, Francisco, yes, it's packing everybody up, in contact between the teammates out of turn 4. It looked like Forster got loose, chased it down the 20 degrees of banking, slid into the 48, will stay green. Of course, no extra contact between the two. Well, all in the matter, allowing Kyle Benson to extend the lead by a little bit, but even a little bit here, Francisco, with the draft is a lot here at a track like Las Vegas.
And AJ Green does get clear, so now he's moving into the sole position of P2. He keeps moving up. As Reedy now the inside, looks like Forster getting stuck a little bit on the outside and does not have help back a little bit after getting to the lead, as he's now falling outside of the top 5 to Joe Sanchez. And now immediately that they're single file. You can see they're starting to close the gap back in on Kyle Benson. AJ Green's trying to see if he could do something with it and get up to P2, as you see Forster continue to move back as he's now losing a position to Lawson Peel.
It just might have been the 99 using up too much of those Goodyear Eagles on the opening stint to try and get the lead, and we've seen track position at least be a priority for these guys, but it gets ripped away in a matter of a heartbeat as the 96 wobbles out of turn 4, still in a side-by-side effort against the 48 of AJ Green, but luckily for the driver of the 96, he's got his teammate right in front of him, so they both can work together, heading back for turn 1. Give themselves the drafting help. That 48 losing his teammate a couple of laps back. Forster drops all the way to P9 on the racetrack. One car slow at the apron. That is the 6 of Michael Newbraw. And AJ Green bobbles back. That'll open the door for Steven Stepien to potentially step back into the top 3, and he does.
The laps since this restart have been a little bit hectic. We talked about guys maybe trying to cool it down a little bit earlier. No, right now, still full attack right now as we're approaching the halfway point of this race shortly. As you see, Reedy now has moved up behind Kyle Benson, so the Murray Reedy Motorsports duo have found themselves up at the front again, as AJ Green's now down to 4th and under fire for Joe Sanchez. Look back at Colin Forster, is still falling back, Kenneth, so you might be right. Definitely used up those tires as he's starting to fall outside of the top 10.
And it seems like you can tell when a driver is using their tires a lot on the opening laps, fresh off of a restart, especially in turns 1 and 2. You can see the difference between a driver using the bottom, at least if they're saving their stuff, and then the driver who runs the direct middle. When they're saving their stuff, they kind of keep it conservative. They run pretty quick, obviously. They're not fully slow on the track, but they're not as fast as the driver who's pushing up in that middle groove. And you can tell the mile per hour difference is so large, and the huge runs they get. And It looks like Forrester just tried his best to get to the very front, and it's now backfiring on him as he has dropped back even more spots. He settles behind the 54 of Brandon Banks. Here comes Austin Riddy looking underneath his teammate, Kyle Benson, for the lead. He'll take it. They're roughly 3 wide inside the top 5 going for turn 2. But a smart move there, Francisco, by the teammate. Benson not willing to offer that much resistance to the 96. He backs out. They're both single file.
And that's usually the way you want to work with them sometimes here in these races, especially where draft plays a factor. If you get too busy racing each other, somebody else will and spoil the party for both of you. And sometimes, even though you don't want to be the one who backs out, you have to because it's for the greater good for both of you guys. So you can at least keep the 1-2 and then battle it out later amongst yourselves. You don't want to throw it away to somebody else just because you're in the midst of battling.
On board here with the number 31, the rookie driver Cedric Hunter, who has moved back into the top 7 and potentially going to make it 3 wide. Indeed, he will at a turn 4 on the front straightaway. Cedric Hunter on the bottom, Green in the middle, and Peel stuck at the very top. They're going to bring a couple of more cars in the mix. How about Daniel Michel on the 25? We saw him strike the outside wall out of turn 2 not too long ago. Drop some spots. He's back in it. And then there's the lap car. That's the 16 of Tyler Murray. We might have seen another car hit the barrier on the outside, and that was defending champion Lawson Peel. But fortunately, he doesn't lose as many spots. He will give it away to Cedric Hunter, who was underneath Joe Sanchez, and Cedric Hunter up to P4.
We saw him fast earlier in the race. Was caught up in that last caution. He was fast in the first portion of this race, and he's found his way back into the top 5 with his mate there in Steven Stempian. These two always seem to find a way around each other. Benson, loose, into the wall, hard contact. You see Joe Sanchez. I think he got a piece of him. He definitely ran into the back of him as cars scatter. Benson is stuck against the wall. He definitely has toe link damage.
Looks like he is struggling with the handling of the car. Cedric Hunter has since moved into second. There's a look at the 10. It looks like he's able to keep control of the racing machine for now, but he drops and plummets throughout the field. That's Kevin D'Elia going around him, and Kyle Benson moves to 15th off of a tap of the outside wall. We'll see exactly how it all started, whether it was just a bit of understeer, whether he just got loose and overcorrected the car. He was running the middle lane in 1 and 2 against Steven Stempian. Oh, and right there, the car kicked out, tried to kick it into a power slide to keep it straight. Unfortunately, overcorrects the machine. And that one mistake puts him in the wall and might send him out of this race.
I believe he has the fast repair, but with no caution, he has to probably come down pit road and take it because he just lose too much time out there. So Benson definitely not the way he wants this middle portion of the race to go. He was leading. He was doing exactly what he needed to in order to make up for last week, but a mistake catches him out, and unfortunately, now it's definitely looking like it could ruin his race if this doesn't get a yellow. And look, his teammate's struggling with the same condition. Or Cedric Hunter to the inside. He cuts the tri-oval, and Cedric Hunter takes the lead away from Austin Reedy. This is the point of the run in which we see these two struggling.
Yeah, I was about to say a mirror image from that first run. It felt like that 96 and the 10 could have learned a lot after struggling with the handles of their cars and getting loose at a turn 2 and turn 4. It looks like they really haven't learned, and they fall into the same predicament. The 96 getting sideways, the 10 in the same problem. Look at the wash up from Reedy in the middle of 3 and 4. They'll get him closer to the outside wall, and he'll lose more time to Cedric Hunter, the rookie driver, who takes the lead. Lap 72 of 134, and at the halfway mark of tonight's race, race number 5 in season 5 of the 4 Wide Racing Cup Series. Don't go anywhere. We've got more on the other side of the break. We'll head side by side here on MaxSpeedTV. Cedric Hunter, your race leader, Austin Reedy, and Steven Stempian, the rest of your top 3.
Racing isn't easy, but experiencing is with the industry's leading sim racing game. Drive on laser scan replicas of the greatest racing circuits from around the world. Go head to head against other drivers chosen by skill-based matchmaking to ensure competitive racing at every level. Compete across all your favorite series. In officially licensed cars engineered to deliver the most accurate driving experience possible. Join a race or host your own with players from across the globe. race against the computer, or in a league with friends. Feel the thrill behind the wheel. Visit iRacing.com.
Wanted the best, you got him for abreast. Often imitated, never duplicated. The greatest show on dirt, the World of Outlaws. Dirt Racing will be available September 27th. Pre-order your copy today.
Back live from the virtual Las Vegas Motor Speedway in Race 5 of Season 5 of the 4-Wide Racing Cup Series. Caution flag is out for the third time this evening. We're going to try and exactly identify who it might have been on the track to cause the problem. We saw Rodney Roberts slipping through the grass on the front straightaway, but that will bring all of the leaders in for service with Cedric Hunter in command. We saw Austin Riddy have the lead for a while. Same deal for Colin Forster and Kyle Benson. But both of them have since slipped off with the tire fall off. It looks like that's going to help Benson significantly get some damage repair. But for everybody else, this will be a crucial pit stop here with just under 60 laps to go. We'll cover pit road. We'll see who wins exactly before we get to that replay of what happened on the scuffle to bring us this most recent caution. With that run severely broken up, and that's really going to shake up strategy as well. 4 fresh tires for everybody in the field. Jack's going to come up on the right side, or now the left side of the race car. Looks like that's the 25 of Michel out first. Sanchez to follow. Stepien, though, going to beat them all off to the line. And Steven Stepien with a master stop, 14.7, makes his way back to the point. And Cedric Hunter, the race leader coming in, dropped off to P3 on the racetrack. We'll see exactly what might have happened to bring out ourselves back to arrest. And again, we talked about that number 20 of Rodney Roberts, who might have slipped through the grass, and it looks like he may not be the only one involved. We'll see. This is coming out of turn 4 against Scott Healy. Well, the car just grabs loose, overcorrects, slams into the wall, and then as he tries to save it again, just whips it sideways, and that was the cause of the yellow. So indeed, a single car incident and a half spin brings us behind the pace car for the third time this evening. Rodney Roberts has since brought that car down to pit road. But again, our long run broken up, and I think that was our second longest run of the night before our opening one, which lasted for a while before we got that first yellow. And as of lap 77, we will go inside the final, I'd say 57 laps of this race. And that should be outside of the window for the drivers on the pit road situation. We talked about 75% fuel offered here in this 4-Wide Racing Cup Series, so we're looking at 40 to 45 laps on a stint of gas, maybe 50, of course. And these drivers are saving most likely underneath this yellow flag, so that could at least open up the window a little longer. But for the most part, you're going to have to make at least one more stop before this race is all said and done. You can imagine that these guys may have not wanted to be in this predicament. I think the only one that benefits might have been Lawson Peel if it stayed green with that early stop, but he has since dropped to P20. That early pit call by himself has dropped him this far down the order. Looks like he has also come down pit road a second time under this yellow to ensure a little more of a top off on fuel and to get himself on the same pace as these guys and to make sure he can last as long on that tank. So we will reset things at lap number 80, I believe, of 134. When we get this restart, you see a couple of lap cars up in front. That is Curtis Kelly, who got caught up in a crash with Tyler Warner and Chuck Keller on the back straightaway. Scott Healy, who has also fallen a lap down. We saw him at once inside the top 8. Looks like he will be the lucky dog, but he'll be 22nd when he rejoins the field at the tail end. And it will be Austin Reedy and Steven Stepien, your two Chevrolet Camaros, back at the front, and Cedric Hunter drops to P3. So it certainly is going to open things up dramatically on this pit road strategy, and now it's definitely going to pose a risk for these guys if they pit a little bit too late. Because remember, we're heading for the final, what's going to be 54 laps in the race. Once we get into that restart, have a couple of laps in, maybe if we get a caution, that's when that fuel window will open, and we'll see drivers come back in for service and for fuel most notably. But if it does stay green and drivers go all the way to the end, it may put them within the final 20 to 15 laps of this race, maybe even less. And remember, we've seen that many times in this series, most notably at Daytona, a couple of seasons back in campaigns, where you don't want to pit so late to the point where you can't catch up if you fall back on strategy. And so we'll see exactly how this all fares out and whether these blueprints actually become a successful plan for the checkered flag this evening. So we'll rack them up once again. Steven Stepien, your leader. He'll choose the outside again. Austin Reedy will be on the bottom of row number 1. Joe Sanchez, Cedric Hunter, drivers in row number 2. It'll be Brandon Banks, your pole sitter, inside the top 5. Daniel Micho in a P6. Jesse Preece, AJ Green, Tyler Warner, and the 13 of Craig Lownslager. Just an update for the drivers who fell back, most notably the 10 of Kyle Benson. He has fallen to 11th. Colin Forrester, who was at once in the race lead, has dropped to P14. Stepien looking to lead the field back to green. Lap number 80 of 134, and a solid jump for the Lights Out Esports Camaro. And we are underway back once again here from Las Vegas. Battle for third. Here comes Joe Sanchez on the outside of Cedric Hunter. That 31 trying to fight as hard as he can. Going into turn 3, but he'll settle out, though, both single file. And the 55 steps into the podium. Hunter looking to respond out of turn 4. We've seen this happen multiple restarts on end. The field's so close together. We really haven't seen the field as close together as we did in that last one. There were 2x2 for multiple rows on end. Do we see that again? As one car goes sideways, that is Daniel Michel. In the middle of the field, the caution flag waves immediately. Fortunately, Michel is able to save it. And could this open the window for everybody at the front? I think it might have been contact with AJ Green in the 48. In a turn 1, we'll see, and I believe it might have been the case. There's the 48. On the backside of this black and white number 25, that cat machine. And Green gets a huge one going into the first corner. He dives to the bottom, and right there just grabs himself to the bottom of the track. The car steps out, wiggles, moves up, slides into the 25. A gorgeous save by Michel behind the wheel. But unfortunately, that is well more than enough to signal a caution flag. Here's a look on board with the 25 heading back for turn 1. There's a second bit of contact to straighten out that 25 from Green. But still, wheelman effort for the Los Angeles, California native and the young driver out of Drinkin' Bros Racing. Is able to save that car and doesn't drop that many positions on the grid. It'll be P13 for him. Once he rejoins on the track surface, it looks like nobody in your race lead or even in the spots behind are going to look for pit road. So inside our final 50 laps, rather 52 here from Las Vegas, nobody looking to bite the bullet. And they may be anticipating another quick yellow. But that's going to bring me to a question here as well. If you're a driver at the front, are you wanting a quick yellow on the restart to at least open yourself for pit road and not have to worry about it for the rest of the race? Or are you looking for a long run to end this race and looking to beat everybody else on strategy under green flag circumstances? Obviously, there's still the opportunity for many yellows down the road, but at this point, without any knowledge of what's going to happen next, are you considering coming down and waiting for a quick yellow off of a restart and hoping that happens and banking on that, or waiting for that race to go green, deciding what you're going to do from there? So Steven Stepien looking for his second race win of Season 5 of the 4-Wide Racing Cup Series. Grabbed his first at the Nashville Superspeedway in a classic finish in the final laps with the number 31 of Cedric Hunter. Austin Reedy is still looking for his first since Circuit of the Americas in last season's affair. Joe Sanchez in the 55 also looking for his first win of the campaign. It'll be his first since New Hampshire of last season. And Sanchez, we saw him as a pioneer and a pillar at Daytona to start the campaign. Unfortunately, was not able to cap it off. We've seen some great runs out of that cookout machine, but is yet to find that last puzzle piece to grab the first checkered flag. Of course, Cedric Hunter still looking for that first. AJ Green looking for his first since Daytona, I believe, of last season. In fact, that was race 16. Yes, it was. Brandon Banks looking to go back to victory lane since Talladega, and the race that got him into the Championship 5 one season ago. And so while we get into the final 50 laps of this race, that is something to consider. Some of the drivers we've seen up at the front, but at the same time, still a lot could happen as we will double them up, and I don't believe we're going to go green this time by. Lights are still on the iRacing official pace car, so indeed we will get one more lap before we see the restart, which will be lap number 86 of 134. So while we're under this caution flag here from the virtual Las Vegas Motor Speedway, let's take another opportunity to look in our rearview mirror, see exactly what happened 1 week ago at the road course in our first one of the season in Watkins Glen, New York. It was the two Murray Reedy Motorsports cars to bring us to green. Kyle Benson, Austin Reedy strong since the start. Benson leading a race-high 18 laps, and unfortunately could not get to the win. We'll talk about that in detail. This is the whole field coming out of turn 1. We expected that to be very chaotic. It was very clean. Then the first signs of trouble came out at the exit of the bus stop in the opening laps. That was Cedric Hunter going for a tap of the outside wall, going into the carousel sector of the course. And later on, as we approached halfway, here came Austin Reedy, a lot of speed on the long run, found his way underneath the teammate for P1 and was not able to bring that 10 back in, but all of a sudden Austin Reedy makes a crucial mistake coming in for pit road at the halfway mark. Comes in this fashion. It gives him a pit road penalty, has to drop to the rear of the field. Kyle Benson also suffered some issues by the time we went back to green flag racing, so it opened things wide open. Joe Sanchez took the race lead, and then a big crash happened at the exit of turn 1, fresh off the restart. Colin Forrester, Kevin D'Elia, Craig Launslugger among those involved. You'll see the replay. Forster comes sending in for turn 1, just packs up a couple of drivers, and then everybody goes around, everybody stacks up as well. Pretty much our biggest issue all night long, but it was the driver who started deep in the field, and P24, Lawson Peel in that Chick-fil-A machine, your defending series champion, dominated the last half of the race, and out of the final corner, turn 7, grabbed his second win of the 4 Wide Racing Cup Series season, at least for season 5. Was able to burn it down with his teammate Joe Sanchez at the exit of turn number 1. Didn't really take long to go for that celebration, and Lawson Peel, who had already been locked into the playoffs by winning Michigan earlier on in the campaign, finds his second, and tonight as he drops back in the field is looking for his third. Ready to go back to green at lap 86 of 134. Steven Stempien and Austin Reedy, the two drivers on the front row. Pace car is down. They head for the Geico restart zone, and Steven Stempien leads the field back to turn 1 to green from Las Vegas.
Another solid jump there for Stempien. And you see him trying to maintain the outside bumps as Reedy stays side by side with Cedric Hunter. You see 3 wide, a little bit further back, but Joe Sanchez now challenging for the 3rd spot. He takes it of the 31 of Cedric Hunter, and he takes it.
And Hunter immediately rescinding the spot. It felt like he did not want to fight that 55 too hard to reel in the 48, the 54, and now the 10 of Kyle Benson. Still your top 3 all within a blanket. They head for turn 1. No challenge for the lead, at least for the moment. And look at Kyle Benson making it 3 wide on the high side for P6. An unbelievable move by Benson, and almost tagged the outside wall and almost got Brandon Banks into the mess as well. And he will challenge on the outside of Cedric Hunter. He'll use that second lane to move to 5th. And then Murray Reedy, Motorsports driver, trying to get back to the front as Joe Sanchez looked for the inside on Reedy and couldn't do it back to turn 1.
Benson's looking similar to what he did in the if you remember after that one caution. He was able to drive up to the outside and made several passes. Speaking of doing just that, there's his teammate, Austin Reedy, doing that, almost gets into the wall. He carries the momentum down the back straight when he has the front, of Stepien. And as we go into 3, he clears as Stepien has a little bit of trouble there in turn 3. Sanchez drives around him on the outside for second, and it leaves him vulnerable for possibly third as AJ Green now goes back over and goes to the inside in turn 1.
Remember, the last thing you want to do, though, if you're Austin Riddy, is burn up those Goodyear Eagles. We've seen it happen not once but twice on a green flag run where Riddy has so much pace to start and then immediately starts slipping and sliding. It brings everybody back in the mix, and all of a sudden he loses the race lead. He can't make that same mistake again. Now that he's up with track position, and the same has to go for Kyle Benson, although he's mired back in traffic, looking underneath Steven Stepien for what could be P4 on the racetrack. For now, Riddy's going to maintain stable at the front. Joe Sanchez has settled into second. AJ Green has found his way back to third out of Stonks Motorsports. And now here comes Benson, another power charge outside turn 2 against Stepien for P4.
And he almost gets into the wall as well, so guys are pushing their luck there in turn 2 as Joe Sanchez got a run off of turn 2. He goes to the inside and he takes the lead. So tonight, it's Joe Sanchez going to the top spot for the first time, and what a block there from Rady on AJ Green here. Inside against him. Green still trying to find a way around it, but can't quite do it as almost contact.
See Benson there in the background looking on top of AJ Green. That'll be a challenge for third on the track. Meanwhile, there were roughly 3 wide in position around the latter half of the top 10. Here's Jesse Prees underneath Daniel Michel. They're fighting for position up in front. Colin Forrester, Cedric Hunter, and Forrester back in the mix once again. And he'll beat the 31 out of the final corner. They'll single file out. And Forrester looking to gain all the track position he lost in the last green flag run.
We've seen a couple of guys kind of who have been fast on short runs, but they haven't really been able to translate it to the long run. Colin Forster's been one of them. The Murray Reedy Motorsports duo of Kyle Benson and Austin Reedy have also been a couple of those that haven't been able to do that. And then you have guys that really are strong on the long run. We've seen Steven Stepien be strong on the long run, Cedric Hunter. And Lawson Peel's been fast on the long run and short runs. He's just mired back in traffic right now, but as now Kyle Benson goes to the outside of Sanchez to take the lead away, as gets a little bit loose there for a moment, so it'll hold back for now as to the inside for momentarily as he tucks in behind for a moment. Benson's trying to get up there and take advantage of it now. He knows at this point he's only been really this fast on short runs. If he can take advantage and get the track position and hold on long enough, it could work out in his favor that he gets a late enough caution, and it could play to his favor of possibly winning this race, because nobody can make it on fuel yet. Everybody probably still has to come down pit road. The thing is, they're trying to hold out in case there's one more caution in a timely fashion, in which they can probably stay out the rest of the way or use tires to their advantage to be able to win, because it'll play into the hands of being fast on short runs.
And I was about to say, it brings up that debate that I mentioned under caution. Are you banking on a caution to come out now to at least be within that fuel window and not have to worry about it for the rest of the race? Or are you going to hold out for as long as possible out on the racetrack and then see what happens from there with this strategy? Because again, last thing you want to do if you're a driver up at the front is to pit so late to the point where by the time you're getting to the final 15 or 10 or 5 laps in this race, just because of the way this strategy is panned out, you may not have enough time to get back to the front and have a chance at the race win. So with Kyle Benson using this desperation to move into second and now may fall to third, with AJ Green looking underneath going back to turn 1, you can imagine maybe Benson is banking on a caution this early on, or maybe just hoping that he'll just push it on the short runs, which has been his strength so far this evening at Las Vegas, and then just try to pit at a right time, pit when he needs to, and then just kind of wait for things to settle and just have enough time to cycle back to the front. AJ Green might have gotten shoved into turn 3, and that'll open the door on the inside for Austin Riddy. That'll bring a couple of more cars in it. How about Colin Forrester, Daniel Michel, Steven Stepien on the backside of this? And Michel was halfway sideways, by the way, Francisco, in turn 1 not too long ago, looking to back in the top 10 against Forrester.
Yeah, you can say that about a couple of guys have had trouble work their way through it and are still battling and still fighting tough here at the moment. Excuse me, as Michel works his way through the top 10 and is trying to see if he can find his way around Colin Forrester and Austin Riddy, as Austin Riddy gets loose off of turn 4. It's a little bit early, but definitely when you have no room to the outside, and it makes it easier for the car on the inside to kind of break loose a little bit and get sideways, and that should give Forster the advantage in turn 2 and should clear him. As you see him now, a battle for second as one car gets to the outside. Tyler Warner, so cars will get by him there. AJ Green holding out pretty good on the inside of Kyle Benson. He'll try and take it down to the white line, and he will. And that'll give him the nose in front out of turn 4 as Austin Reedy now gets clear. We'll see where the draft takes it as AJ Green keeps trying to make that inside work. He knows Benson's going to fall off if we get long enough into this run, so he wants to make sure he can take the track position away. He slides up and almost doors him, but they will stay side by side as now Lieutenant Benson gets the help from Reedy and gets clear.
About to say that AJ Green was going to have help by his teammate Colin Forster, but you watch that freeway, that black, or the blue and white machine coming out of turn 4 now. Looks like he's going to drop back a couple of spots so he won't be in distance. But with that 48, they make it a 3-car train on the low side with Green, Benson, and Stempien back to turn 1. And remember, Joe Sanchez, despite seeing all of this in his rearview mirror, has not been able to pull away. Everyone's still been within striking distance, and that's a little scary there off of the draft as Benson now underneath his teammate. Both of them going to go side by side back to turn 3. We have entered the final 34 laps of this race from Las Vegas Motor Speedway. So strategy in the minds of every single driver at the front. Remember, we saw Lawson Peel in the number 12 machine come in for pit road not too long ago. He has since moved his way up to 12th. I think he may be the best driver for strategy right now, but even then, that's remarkably slim as here comes Reedy, the 96 to the inside of Sanchez for P1.
They're going to be racing each other now for the top spot. Reedy able to get down low, and he's going to try and see if he can use it to take the lead away. We know that these guys have struggled on long. Again, if they could take the lead, it would be so huge for them. We know that the guys can't make it, and even those who pitted on the last caution, they probably have an outside chance of getting it all the way. It's just so many laps on this fuel fill. It's probably going to be a struggle as you see the 96 washes up a little bit. That's going to allow Joe Sanchez to get a big run off this corner and possibly stay in front. But you see the side draft is what keeps Austin Reedy in it, and he's back even with him in turn 3.
And if you're Steven Stempien rolling in P3, you're loving the sight of this battle for P1 right now because he is pulled away from Cedric Hunter and Kyle Benson, who are now fighting for P4 on the racetrack, and Stempien can just do whatever he wants on the racetrack in turns 1 and 2 and in 3 and 4. We just have to accommodate for what happens in this battle. Sanchez gets loose, Reedy slides up a bit, and it looks like the 8 will assist the 96 on the way to the back straightaway. They'll be able to clear Reedy for the lead back to turn 3. Stempien going to have to arc it back out of turn 4 as Sanchez just trying to hold on as long as he can to every position that he's got. But that cookout machine certainly falling back inside the final 31 laps to go.
And the 8 of Stempien could have been real selfish there and taken it 3 wide and gone for the off a turn 2 that last time. But he chose to help Ricky, and he chose to get him clear, focus on the battle one at a time. And he's still battling for second, but he really could have turned left there a lap ago and been aggressive to take the lead away as he saw both of them guys slide up the racetrack and kind of give him the opportunity to do that. And now you look behind them, Cedric Hunter. Again, we talked about Hunter, how he's been fast on these long runs. He's up to 4th, and he's behind Steven Stempien. These two have found a way around each other, not just tonight, but throughout the season. And as the race starts winding down, getting into the final 30 or so laps, these two up in the front again. Stempien trying to get a second career win, or Cedric Hunter still trying to get that first one.
You just noticed there, heading for turn 3, Hunter did the same thing Stempien did to Reedy on the back straightaway. Didn't decide to go 3 wide for the position. Instead, hanged back, stayed with the driver on the inside, gave them the draft, and it really hasn't cleared Stempien for a second completely, but it has helped him a little bit as Hunter will just be able to hang on for now. And it looks like Lawson Peel has challenged his way up to P6. He's got 8 lap pressure tires to end the field, and you can imagine that possibly fuel may be on his side as Austin Reedy lags back. Stempien looks for the lead in turn 3.
He's a huge dive to the inside, can't quite stick to the bottom, but he's going to be on the quarter panel off of the corner. If he can side draft good enough, he can hold the position, and he does. You see him now starting to get that forward momentum, and he's going to be even going into turn 1 with the nose in front. Goes over the bumps. This is where he's going to struggle, and he goes over it. The car struggles to keep grip, and Reedy is going to get clear off of the corner. He tries to slot it. I think he made contact with Reedy, and now Stempien's going to take the lead away from Austin Reedy. with the outside wall, but he's coming back at him.
He's coming back on the outside. One car for pit road, and that is Kyle Benson in the 10. An unscheduled stop, I believe, or maybe it was. Inside the final 27 laps of this race, he comes all by himself. And we'll see how he fares with the rest of the field on strategy. Meanwhile, race lead battle still on as the 96 and the 8 almost make contact again. Exiting turn 2, Cedric Hunter waiting in P3, and Stepien looking to take control of this race once again here from Vegas, and Reedy again fighting in the middle.
An intense battle for the lead right now. These guys have been racing with each other and giving each other less and less. Goes for the outside of Stepien for P2, and you might want to consider pitting, though, because you will be able to make it, and you also limit the advantage that Kyle Benson has. By Kyle Benson pitting, he's going to start gaining time on these guys, and if they are too slow to react, he might have too big of a gap to where their overcut might not work out. Of course, if a caution comes out, that's going to negate any advantage that the 10 tries to make, as you see another car on pit road, that Jesse Prees. So I think guys might consider coming down pit road here with just over 20 laps to go, knowing that they can make it, and they have to use the fresh tires while they can.
A couple of drivers have also come in, most notably the 33 of Tyler Warner. Looks like the 81 of Cody Ivey. Nice battle inside the top 10. This is Christopher Bishop and Tony Kivett, two drivers we haven't really talked about all that much in this race, most notably that 76. But a great battle building up here. Looks like Kivett's going to be able to clear for the moment, but Bishop will fight back on the bottom. And Kivett looking for what's going to be his best run of the season by far, as here come your leaders onto pit road. I saw a couple of them come in, most notably Lawson Peel, AJ Green, Brandon Banks, and I believe Austin Riddy has also found his way to the pit lane. So strategy well on tap inside the final 23 laps of this race. There's Benson going around Riddy for 17th. And Riddy looking outside as Roberts gets loose in turn 2, but is able to save the race car.
And that's the other part, is when you guys have green flag pit stops, you have to remember tires are cold, so you have to warm them up. And when you're exiting the racetrack, that's where at the coldest, almost making contact there with that number 20 as he was exiting pit road, as the 20 lost control, almost hitting the 96 as now Lawson Peel comes out of pit road. There you see the 96 of Austin Reedy. We know Kyle Benson's in front of him, so Peel's got a lot of work to do if he wants to try and make up any ground in the final 23 laps. You see the 31 of Cedric Hunter. He's the current Steven Stepien. Both of them will continue to stay out, but cars throughout the field are continuing to cycle in or out. I think Christopher Bishop now has entered pit road.
Indeed, you're right. The 42, the Bullfrog Camaro, is in for what's going to be the final stop for him for the race. Maintain that eye on first and second as Stepien has severely closed in on Cedric Hunter. And you can imagine that Hunter might just be struggling on the tires. He wraps that bottom, will not head for pit road this time by. And it looks like Stepien might have. Stepien going to hop on the brakes. Stepien going to enter pit road. So with 21 laps to go from Las Vegas, Steven Stepien coming in for service. Colin Forster, Curtis Kelly going to complete the top 3 as they stay out.
And they're all aiming or looking at the relative towards Kyle Benson, because he was the first one to come down pit road a couple laps ago. So you're probably going to be behind him and be behind by a good margin. It's what you can do in the next 20 laps to negate that advantage that Kyle Benson has made for himself that'll determine who can win this race. Of course, with them being laps down at the moment, it's tough to see what the actual individual drivers if you're not seeing it for yourself visually. So there you see the 10 of Kyle Benson. He goes into turn 1 now as he goes by a couple of lap cars, and you see the tire difference there. There's Lawson Peel just behind him. He's about 6 or 7 tenths of a second behind, and he has slightly newer tires. So Lawson Peel has a pretty good shot of catching up to Kyle Benson. The question is, where does everyone else cycle out, and what can they do with newer tires?
You see the drivers are catching. That's going to be third on the racetrack. Or second. Caution flag, though, is out with 19 laps to go. And I was about to mention that we're going to fight for the lucky dog. Tyler Warner has it. And we'll see who might have been involved. It might have been Jesse Prees in the 00. As we are under the rest of the iRacing official pace car once more. And it was contact with rookie Xander Short, who parks it at the exit of turn 4, and here comes Priest slamming into the rear of the 21.
Not really sure what happened there. Let's see if we could get a look on if there was trouble inside that 21. He was going very slowly, so here lets these guys go. Those are the leaders, or what would have been the leaders. I guess he tried to come down pit road, Kenneth, and Jesse Priest just had no idea.
Oh, look at Tony Kibbett getting caught up in that as well. Kibbett was building up a top 10 run up until this point, and at 76 gets dealt bad luck at the wrong time. See it once more. Here's a look from Kibbett, 76.
And another thing, Kenneth, as we see the replay again, that's something that doesn't get talked about too much. The troubles of pitting under green, not so much you trying to control the car on pit road, but other drivers that are around you. You have to be aware of if somebody's pitting and if they call it out, and if you know what you can do to try and avoid them. If you run the same line, you probably have to take evasive action at the last second or do something that's going to cost you a lot more time than if you're able to run a line a little bit higher in advance. That way you're already prepared. We've seen that happen here tonight. We've seen it happen in many leagues. We've seen it happen in the past a lot of times. It won't be the last time it's happened, but it strikes, and it's definitely going to shake the field up. As Cedric Hunter does not win the race on pit road, it's going to be Colin Forrester that takes the lead away. And while these guys will be at the front of the field, all those guys who are trapped the lap down will get the wave around. So while they cannot come down pit road under this caution to take tires, they'll at least get beyond the lead lap, and they'll be at the tail end of the restart. And it'll be a lot of cars, but at least they're on the lead lap, so they should have a battle. We get another caution. Those guys that just take the wave around on this one, they'll probably come down pit road and try something different because they're on a different strategy. They're offset. They may as well do that.
And that's a nightmare, though, for them, though, because now they have to really change their strategy based on being a lap down, not being a lap down, getting a wave around, being at the tail end of the longest line, while everybody up at the front who had stayed out that long, Colin Forrester, Cedric Hunter, Curtis Kelly, Daniel Michel among those, they all get to get fresh rubber, and they're still in the lead lap, and they still have track position. So it's been a big shakeup there with that caution involving Xander Short. And so this is really going to shake up the running order. Colin Forrester will have control of the lead. And what's insane, Francisco, is that one yellow under green flag pit stop sequence pretty much disintegrated most of the Titans we had in this field. Kyle Benson, now at the back. Austin Reedy, now at the back. Steven Stempian, now near the rear of the field. Colin Forrester, Cedric Hunter are the only two drivers who have been up front practically all race long that now have a shot to win this race inside 15 laps to go. At least for now. Of course, cautions can still come out. We may see some more yellows happen and may shake up the game even more. But with Kyle Benson leading that group in P11, it's going to be a long route. And the fact that they cannot get tires on pit road, that tire discrepancy is going to be large. 12 laps, mostly 12 or 11 laps, between the drivers up the front who just came in and everybody who stayed out getting a wave around. Tyler Werner, Kyle Benson, Lawson Peel among those that will get this wave around. It looks like Werner has caught up to the rear of the field, but as they cross the start-finish line, we should get the 1-to-green signal from the iRacing official pace car. And so Benson, Peel, Sanchez, Banks, AJ Green, all of these guys are going to go around the car, and they are going to be at the tail end of the longest line with the oldest tires in the field. And that gives the advantage to Colin Forrester and Cedric Hunter, who will command this race with 14 laps to go on a green flag restart. But look at the drivers who now have the opportunity to not only get a podium, but have a chance to win this race entirely. Daniel Michel had gone sideways completely in turn 1, caused a caution after getting hit by AJ Green. He's now inside the top 4. Curtis Kelly, who stayed out with these guys up at the front, he's now in 3rd. So despite being severely damaged in a caution on the back straightaway, having to take that faster pair, and at one point in this race, having to tow to pit lane, Kelly is back with a shot to win. Michael Newbraw, we haven't seen much of him all race long. He's now inside the top 5. How about Nicholas Vizzuti in the 75? It would be a first win in a very long time for him if he can get it done. Rookie driver Dominic Bettini, he's now 7th. Rodney Roberts was caught up in a caution earlier tonight. He's 8th. Tony Kibbett got caught up in the most recent one. He's in 9th. And then goes Tyler Warner on the oldest set of tires with 14 laps on it in P10. And then Kyle Benson and everybody else having to work from 11th on back on the racetrack. Final 14 to take down from Las Vegas. The field severely thinned out and all single file behind Tony Kimmett, Colin Forster, Cedric Hunter, row number 1, back to the green flag from Vegas.
And wheel spin, you see the rear of the car shake around. The 31 is Cedric Hunter. That's going to allow the 71 to get an advantage. But it's Colin Forster who leads the field and a lot of spread. As you see, the top 4 have kind of broken away.
And now here comes Curtis Kelly to fight for second. The first time we see Kelly in the top 3 all race long. Simple move, easy pass. Kelly up to second out of turn 4.
And we'll see what he can do. He's going to get a little bit of draft help from the 31 of Cedric Hunter. So we'll see if he can make a further lead or try to. See the battle between Rodney Roberts and the 75 of Nicholas Vizzuti. Vizzuti and he might have a nice result here tonight, which he could definitely use. As we're on board now with Curtis Kelly. Kelly in the Hot Wheels machine, trying to see what he can do to Colin Forster. We've seen Forster be fast for a short run, and he struggled a little bit on the long run. But Kelly's actually getting a pretty good run off turn 4. He's going to close to the back of the Tootsie's number 99. Tries to see where he can go, but decides to be patient. He's got 13 laps or 12 laps left now. So while 12 laps is a good amount, it'll click off very quickly, and before you know it, you'll be at the end. So if you're Curtis Kelly, think of a plan and try and execute as fast as possible. You see guys in the back are going around.
Looks like that was Dominic Bettini, the number 02, the rookie driver, falls back to the field and went sideways out of the second corner. The hoops tucked in behind the 64 of Scott Healy. Fortunately, we will stay green, and we will look back to the battle from first all the way through P4. Can Curtis Kelly do anything to break the shield that the 99 has built up? And the 25 looking to the outside of Cedric Hunter for third.
And there you see the 25, Michel. He's trying to come back. He's trying to see if he can pick this season off with the win. There's the 31. Hunter slides up, almost makes contact. You see the 25. And they're now side by side again for the third spot, as Curtis Kelly has not really been able to make inroads. The field's a little bit spread out to the point where they can't give each other enough of a push to make a run. So Forster likes what he's seeing right now because it's playing into his hands.
Curtis Kelly not able to make a move. He hasn't really been as fast all race long, and with this side-by-side battle inside the top 3, Forster has been able to sit comfortably, and he will cross the line for 9 laps to go from Las Vegas Motor Speedway. Do we see another caution, or do we see this race end under green flag circumstances? Battle inside the top 9. That's Kyle Benson under Joe Sanchez. It looks like Sanchez will win that fight. Stempy looking to take it around. Remember, these are all the drivers that pitted under that green flag sequence before the caution came out, all of them on the older tires in the field, but still a lot of points to be dealt. And here comes Tony Kimmett inside, and he'll wash up in turn 3.
Oh, and he almost makes contact with the 10 of Kyle Benson. Tony Kimmett trying to hang on out there after having pitted, and these are guys that have been fast all race. Just a little bit older tires are kind of mired in the. They won't be able to get up there in time unless we have a caution. So you're looking at the actual battle for the win. That legitimate battle for the win in this race is coming down between this guy and Curtis Kelly running second, with Daniel Michel now moving up to P3. What can they do to work together to challenge the 99 of Colin Forster?
So far, the answer has been a resounding nothing. Against that number 99, Kelly has been hanging tough in second, and he's been able to stay ahead of Daniel Michel and Cedric Hunter, who have finally solved that battle for third. Michel wins that fight, but none of them have been able to band together and go against Colin Forster. Now Hunter moves back to the inside. Michael Newbraw tries to challenge against Rodney Roberts for the last spot in the top 5, but again, the 31 and the 25 side by side, and they'll make contact at a turn 4.
And Michel slides up. That's going to cost him a spot. So here comes Cedric Hunter now. And Michel now is going to be under fire under both Rodney Roberts and Somebody else, but here goes the move. Oh, contact there. You see Curtis Kelly and the 31 of Cedric Hunter. They make contact going. Forrester absolutely loving this. And as you see now, behind these guys, the 3 black cars are battling away for the top 5 position. That's Rodney Roberts on the outside. Kenneth, he's trying to take 4th away from Michel.
And Rodney Roberts, if he can complete this, it will be his first top 5 of Season 5 in his rookie campaign. Still in that fight against Michel. Back to turn 1. They all stay single file. They've reeled in Lawson Peel, your defending series champion, and Nicholas Vizzuti into the mix. Caution flag is out. Tony Kivet in trouble in turn 1.
Oh, not Tony Kivet. This is not the way he wanted this race to end, as he's backwards up against the outside wall, probably on the receiving end of contact here. And we'll get a look of it. Looks like the car around him is going to be the 48 of AJ Green. Let's plays out as we go by the start finish line. There's 5 laps to go in this race. They just barely make contact in the trial. We'll just kind of slide into each other ever aggressively. It turns the 76 around. We'll get another look at it here from the skybox. They go through the trial bowl. They're kind of giving each other enough room. They're just kind of drifting towards each other slightly. Boom, right there. Into the wall they go, and it just turns the 76 around, and he's backwards and has nothing to do. That brings out the caution. What I think you're going to see now, Kenneth, is everybody who had to take the wave round will come down pit road. Most likely. It'll probably give them their best chance with 20-something lap newer tires just to do something. But definitely your top 8 or so will stay out.
Decision time for pit road. Cedric Hunter tries to fake in. He'll fake out. Same deal for Curtis Kelly. First taker in, Lawson Peel, joined by Steven Stepien and everybody else. And those tires are certainly going to make a difference. The question is, do they have enough time? This is going to be a huge restart and probably the most pivotal to decide the winner here from Vegas. And Colin Forrester, who had held on to the lead in that entire run, has been so calm, has been so concise in each and every move of that steering wheel. There's a look at Austin Reedy getting his lap back, and Forrester going to go all the way to the apron. It looks like no problems there. Just maybe saving some fuel or just having a little bit of fun underneath this caution flag. But that was a very big run as well for Colin Forrester. That was a huge statement, being able to hold off Curtis Kelly. And while Cedric Hunter was distracted in a battle with Daniel Michel for laps on end, then had to fight against the 71, and that lost him some more time. It felt like Hunter could have been the only other patron to challenge against Forrester for the lead had this caution not have waved. But yet every single time, Hunter found an obstacle, and Forrester, despite being at the front, you can imagine that he may start to choke. He may start to find some mistakes here and there in that overthinking zone, but he did not. And the 99 held on to the lead, and that was a very big run for Forrester. It's just a shame here that he may get the win ripped away from his hands if those fresh tire cars catch up in enough time.
Well, not just that, but he's also going to be restarting on old tires. On old tires, at least not tires this old in this race. So how does Forrester react to the launch when he tries to go, and how they go through 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 for the first time? These guys, all of them will have to ask themselves that question, because it could be very easy to make a mistake with that. As I believe we still have the lights on the pace car, so we still have another 2 laps at the very minimum to the restart. It'll be overtime attempt number 1. We've seen Colin Forrester kind of make a name for when at Phoenix, Indianapolis in overtime. I believe we also saw him at Chicagoland last season, I believe was an overtime finish as well. We saw him win there. So Colin Forrester, he's struggled on old tires tonight, but he's always risen up to the occasion in these overtime attempts in this league. So tonight, are we gonna get another Colin Forrester Classic?
Can we just call it a clutch Colin at this point with the amount of finishes that he's been involved in with 2 laps to go? It's a similar situation, and a lot of times, Francisco, Colin has risen to the occasion. So I think he may just be our closer. Who knows?
Yeah, the closer.
I like Clutch Colin, though. I may go with that one. It's probably a terrible nickname, and I'm sure Colin could probably give us a better alternative. But nonetheless, Forrester will be in control of the lead, and you are right, pointed out a big detail there, Francisco, that I missed. We are heading into our first attempt at green-white checkered and an overtime finish here from Las Vegas Motor Speedway. So what we would do is we will, of course, have the restart as normal. So double file with everybody in the field. We'll try to get a restart going with 2 laps to go. If a caution comes out before the leader gets to the white flag, we'll rack them up and do it all over again. We have 3 attempts to finish this race under green. If the leader gets to the white flag and nothing happens after that, then we'll run it all the way to the finish, no matter what goes on behind the leaders, or even with the leaders, to the checkered. We'll decide a winner from there. If we do exhaust all 3 attempts that are green, white, checkered for overtime, the driver who is considered the leader at the last caution at the timing of that will be decided as the checkered flag holder in race number 5 of season 5. We'll go through your top 10 as it stands. Colin Forrester, your leader. He'll be at discretion once we get back to green. Cedric Hunter on the outside of the first row. Curtis Kelly, Daniel Michel to join behind them in row number 2, 3rd, and 4th. Michael Newbraw rounds out your top 5. Ronnie Roberts will be alongside him as well. Nicholas Vizzuti, Scott Healy, Craig Lownslauger, and Dominic Bettini round out the top 10. Everybody with fresh tires, 12th on back, starting with your defending series champion, Lawson Peel. Do they have enough time? It's 2 laps. We've seen so much happen in just a couple of miles at many of the tracks on the 4-wide calendar. And do we see another classic finish as Cedric Hunter tries to look for his first career win and Forrester tries to get his 2nd of the season? Pace car makes its way down to the entrance of pit road. 2 laps to go from Las Vegas Motor Speedway. Colin Forrester, Cedric Hunter, your front row, back to the green flag.
That was a good launch for Forrester. It gives him the advantage on the first lap of this restart. So now he has to fend off and make sure that they attack. If they stay side by side, that should be easier said than done. And that's exactly what's going on. Michel and Curtis Kelly are racing each other for that spot. And they're even racing each other for 3rd. As you see, oh, big crash in the back. AJ Green goes around cars inside one. We're going to do it again. As these are the guys on newer tires, Kenneth. They kind of step their foot on each other, and that's going to cost them.
They were roughly 3 and 4 wide coming out of turn 2, and I saw the 12 of Lawson Peel get stuffed into the outside wall, and here's a look at it. They're trying to split through Tyler Warner and Dominic Bettini. They go 5 wide, and still 5 wide. They make contact. Inevitably, it was going to happen, and Sanchez and Benson go hard into the outside wall. And that is not a situation you want to be in at Las Vegas. But there's only so much room in the track. Here's on board with Sanchez. Wow, 5 wide back straightaway.
How do you even comprehend that when you're in the car? Like, you probably aren't even aware your spot only goes to 3 wide. So let alone 4 wide being impressive enough. The 5 wide's just incredible. You just don't know. The only way you know is if you have an actual person that is spectating you, telling you, yes, you are 5 wide, and you're probably wrecking. In this case, they are. And it's just hard. The track's only so wide, and it's wide enough to support it clearly, but it's not exactly meant to support it consistently.
So a huge crash with the fresh tire cars is not only going to set them back further, it is going to offer us another restart to finish this race in overtime. So we will extend this a couple of laps more from the scheduled 134 lap distance. We went just over 201 miles, at least what we were going to do. Now we're going well over 201 miles with the amount of laps we've added on to the mix. And so we'll try it all over again with the same duo at the front row, Colin Forrester and Cedric Hunter. So with that caution, I can imagine, Francisco, that it's only going to make things worse for Stempian, for Peel, all those guys who made a couple of positions up but may not have enough time to get back to the front. If you're Colin Forrester and Cedric Hunter, how do you play this final restart? If you're Forrester, is it status quo like the last one? If you're Cedric Hunter, do you change anything? What's the plan this time through?
Well, you definitely have to change something if you're Cedric, because you're obviously going to be restarting 2nd, 3rd, but you have to do something different to give yourself positive forward momentum towards the 99. Being next to him is going to be difficult, though, because 2nd is one of the worst places to restart when it comes to any restart, especially if it's late. The leader can just do so much to throw you off because you're right there next to him. You have no forward visual guides. Usually, if you're behind him, you can immediately see when he goes, and it really helps yourself against 2nd place. and kind of maintain with the leaders. So it's going to be hard but not impossible. He can definitely time this and keep second place and try and battle out for.
I figure the best case scenario for Cedric Hunter, if you're not able to fully even out with Forster, it has to be tuck in behind him, clear that 71, get him out of the picture, because that last restart, Kelly was able to force his way in, and although he didn't win the fight for second, Hunter had to fight him off in the first handful of yards going into the first two corners, and that really set him back. It lost him a lot of time, and so we'll see if it happens all over again. And the advantage for Forster, he's the control car. He can go whenever he pleases, as Forster looks for his second 4-wide Racing Cup Series win in this season. Remember, he kicked it off with a win at Daytona International Speedway. Cedric Hunter close to the win a couple of times, and most notably at Nashville Super Speedway, the absolute heartbreak he suffered on behalf of that Hello Kitty number 31 Ford Mustang, this time still looking for win number 1 on the calendar. Curtis Kelly looking also for his first win. Ronnie Roberts, the rookie driver, looking for his first top 5 of the season, but also his first W of his career in this series. Same deal for Danny Mitchell. Scott Healy, really the only veteran driver other than Colin Forster in the mix of this top 6, as Healy had gone through hell and back on pit road and multiple drops in position. And it looks like this time we'll have the lights out on the iRacing official pace car. We'll rack them up for another 2-lap-to-go restart in our second attempt at overtime here from Las Vegas Motor Speedway. This would be a big win for Colin Forster, Francisco, of course, because it would even him with Lawson Peel having the most wins of the season by any driver up till this point. And for Forster, it would be his first 1.5-mile win since Chicagoland last season to lock him into the playoffs.
Yeah, and it is a statement win if you're able to do this as Colin Forster, because Lawson Peel, for the most part, looked like he was dominant, and even if he didn't get a good run, and you'd probably get a new winner for this season, by evening at yourself at 2 with him, you're setting yourself as somebody to be reckoned with when it comes to a championship battle against that guy. When you're in a battle for the championship, a win disparity definitely favors the guy who collected. It shows that he can do it, and he can do it anytime. We know Lawson Peel can do that, but if somebody's able to go toe to toe with him, then it just keeps the pressure on him all season long. And the pressure is about to go up now, Kenneth. That pace car is going to make that left turn on the pit road. The Geico restart zone is going to show up, and we're going to go back racing attempt number 2 at overtime.
And again, wheel spin for the 31 of Hunter. It allows the 71 of Kelly to slip in a second back to turn 1. Forster with a bit of breathing room going into the first corner. We'll keep an eye on Steven Stepien, the first driver on fresh tires in the field. Kelly slides up the track in front of the 31. Here comes Rodney Roberts for P3 to turn 3.
He's trying to take the podium spot, but it's Curtis Kelly and he's right on Colin Forster, Kenneth. What can Curtis Kelly do to try to win? You see him move up to That's probably not what he wanted to do. Oh, and
Cedric Hunter into the outside wall. The 99 goes back to turn 1 on the white flag. Rodney Roberts looking for second, but the 99 of Forster looking for his second win of Season 5. Again, they make contact, battling for P3, and into the final 2 corners from Las Vegas Motor Speedway. Colin Forster holds off the competition. They're 3 wide for third, but Forster grabs another win to his illustrious 4-wide Cup career. Checkered flag at Las Vegas. Forster the winner.
And a wreck there off turn 4 involving Rodney Roberts and Scott Healy. But Colin Forster, a big win at Las Vegas. He stole this one, Kenneth. He was pretty fast, but he wasn't one of those guys you were looking at in the middle portion of this race. He played the strategy to his perfection after the caution at the right time comes out when he's still on the racetrack and most of those guys had pitted. And he's able to hold on to the lead, holds off Curtis Kelly, and he grabs another 4-wide Racing Cup Series win. I believe that makes it his 7th win, if you could correct me.
And the 99 has a torn up right front toe link as he was celebrating at the exit of turn 2. And the strategy played out in his favor when that caution came out, stayed out as long as he did. There's Curtis Kelly, who comes home in second. What a run for Kelly after being involved in a caution earlier tonight. And Colin Forster back to a checkered flag as he burns it down on the front straightaway. Second win of the season, and he ties with Lawson Peel for most wins on the calendar so far. And Clutch Colin gets back to victory lane, and Kelly gonna celebrate with him as the 99 will continue his celebrations. And we'll have a chance to talk with him and the rest of your top 3 at the end of tonight's race here from Nevada. We'll take a look at your full field results and see exactly where everybody came home to the checkered flag. There were 3 wide for third. There was a tussle amongst them, but it's Colin Forster by 3/10 of a second, holding off everyone in the final laps in both green and white checkered attempts for his second win of the year. Curtis Kelly comes home in P2. It'll be Daniel Michel, the Los Angeles, California native, for P3. Lawson Peel, the first driver on the freshest tires of the field, ends up 4th. He'll be followed by Steven Stempien to wrap up the top 5. Brandon Banks, your pole sitter, comes home in P6. AJ Green to follow in P7. Joe Sanchez comes home in 8th. Both of them, by the way, involved in that most recent caution to bring us into the second attempt. They were able to repair their cars, get back on track. Craig Launslager ends up 9th, and it'll be a top 10 for the 42 of Christopher Bishop.
And looking at the 11th through 20th places, Rodney Roberts just misses out on the turn 4 crash. Kyle Benson recovers up to P12 after having to make that late pit stop, falling a lap down with the green flag stop. Michael Newbraw finishes up in 13th, Kevin D'Elia in 14th, Tyler Warner in the 15th position. Dominic Bettini will finish in 16th in his season debut. Cody Ivey with a respectable 17th place finish. Scott Healy came off worse in that crash, goes from possible top 5 to 18th place off of turn 4. Cedric Hunter had trouble coming to the white flag. He finishes down in 19th, unfortunately for him. And Nicholas Vizzuti, after being in the top 5 there towards the end of the race, will finish down in 20th.
We'll look at the final drivers in our 28-car field, starting with Austin Riddy. Had a fantastic race and then fell a lap down, couldn't rebound, and that's where he comes home for the checkered flag. Tony Kibbett will be the first driver, 1 lap down or more. 11 laps down, he'll fall in 22nd. 23rd will go to the 00 of Jesse Preece. 24th to the 7 of Chuck Keller. Xander Short in his second attempt at a 4-wide Racing Cup Series event ends up in the top 25. Tyler Murray ends up 51 laps down, 26. It'll be 27th for John Holiday, and Jason Hastings unfortunately did not make the green flag, so he is out on 28th in tonight's field from Las Vegas Motor Speedway. It'll be our time, though, to speak with the driver who gets his second win in season number 5. It's Colin Forster in the 99. We have a chance to talk with him right now in Victory Lane. We'll bring him in just a couple of moments. We'll find him first, but now we've got him. Colin Forster, another win to a 4-wide Cup career that really came off with a hot hand when you were in your rookie campaign. Colin, just first of all, walk us through that pivotal caution to give you the strategy to be out front, and how were you able to hold everybody off in the final laps?
Yeah, I definitely think I was the fastest short run car tonight. As we saw early in the race when I went on the outside of everyone, but definitely felt like I was fastest short run. So that kind of helped me with my strategy. I knew I wasn't gonna win just off a long run, so I figured I'd risk it, see if we had caution come out, and luckily did. I won the race off pit road, and that's really all I needed.
And you mentioned short run pace, and we saw a lot of that most notably around halfway where you powered your way to the front. Unfortunately, you dropped back by the end of that run, but what really changed at the halfway mark? Because it felt like you were just hanging around in the mid-pack after starting 23rd. You were slowly making some progress, but you weren't really charging as far up to the field as you were. What changed around halfway to give you all of a sudden that speed and to give you that confidence to run up there with the guys up front?
Honestly, just getting some laps on the track. I didn't really get to do any practice. Joined in the session a little late, so qualifying were my first laps. So I would just say getting some laps on the track, learning. I spun out during the first run by myself on the backstretch, just burnt the right rear, and was just able to conserve my tires a little bit better as the race went on there, and I was able to conserve them enough to stay up front and get the win.
Well, it's safe to say, Colin, that you are the final 4-wide Cup race winner of 2022. We go into the new year for the next race at Road America. You tie Lawson Peel with the most wins on the season so far after you got your first at Daytona to kick off the season. How much confidence and how much momentum does this give you going into the holiday break and when we return at Road America in a couple of weeks?
It definitely gives me a lot of confidence going into the break, but Road America I haven't been best at road courses in these cars. I think Charlotte Roval's probably my best bet to run top 5, top 3 at a road course this season. So just top 10 at Road America, and that'll be good for me.
Well, nonetheless, momentum on your side, and you're already locked into the playoffs, so we know you're going to be fighting for a 4-Wide Racing Cup Series championship once again. Colin, before we let you go on this win from Las Vegas Motor Speedway, anybody else you want to thank for the phenomenal run to the checkered?
I'd like to thank my dad for watching, rooting me on. Thank you for doing the broadcast. I'm sure it's awesome like usual. Thank everyone in 4 Wide for having me, and everybody on Stonks tonight. We had very odd races for all of us. I got up front, me and Curtis got up front there late, and AJ and Kevin kind of ran in the back towards the end. But it was a good race overall. Hope everyone has a good holidays and a good New Year.
We certainly appreciate it, Colin. Again, on behalf of our team of the broadcast crew, congratulations on your second win of Season 5 and here from Las Vegas Motor Speedway. Happy holidays to you and your family, and we'll see you at Road America in 2023.
All right, thank you.
So Colin Forster to the race win and holds everybody off, all of the traffic in the final lap. So we'll talk to the driver who comes home in P2 for the same team, the driver of the 71, and that is Curtis Kelly, who joins us here on MaxSpeedTV. Curtis, an unbelievable switch in this race. You came from crashing at the exit of turn 2, having to burn your fast repair, had to tow the car down pit road, and all of a sudden you come all the way back for P2. How did you do it? What are your thoughts on this finish tonight?
Kind of had a similar start to the day as Colin in some ways, where didn't really get any practice in, didn't qualify up front, which would help with some of the chaos. But early on, I actually had a better car for the first half of the race. It felt good long run pace and was able to work up my way up the field. But yeah, coming out of 2, got caught up in one of the big ones early on, and unfortunately got driven into and had to tow and put a couple laps down there. Had to just pray for some lucky cautions, which we got at the end to get back up there. And staying out at the end with Colin, trying to get some track position. We're lucky to get the one at the end that put us in contention for the win. But it's a good race all around. Just a little frustrating to get into some nonsense throughout. We had the pace to be up there at the stage and would have been nice.
Still a big rebound, though, for this top 3, and I know in the final run and even those last 2 attempts at a green-white checker to end this race, you were right there with Colin. You had great restarts on the inside of the second row. Did you feel there was anything that you had left in the tank to get to Colin, or did you feel you weren't going to get there in time?
If we hadn't had the hijinks come into the line, I think Cedric tried to thread a hole that wasn't quite big enough there. Too bad he got into the wall. But if it wasn't for that, I think we may have been able to give Colin something at the end. I was able to set up really good exits when I wanted to. That's part of what saved the tires throughout the long run today. But just working together with Colin at the end, wanted to bring home a solid finish so we get the points.
Well, solid finish indeed. You end up with a P2 at the end of 2022 for the 4-Wide Racing Cup Series. We take a little bit of a holiday break. We return at Road America. We continue the rest of our schedule in the regular season. Are there any tracks in particular you're looking at by the time we get back after the break?
I mean, especially looking forward to Road America. I think it's going to be a really interesting race this time around. They made some good changes to the cars and road racing in general. Rubber lays down a lot more now, and the grass is a lot more punishing. I think you're going to see some more people struggling with that at a track like Road America, but looking forward to that. Hopefully you're going to get a top 5 finish, maybe compete there, and just bring home a good finish, consistent season like last year, and be there at the end.
Great finish here tonight from Las Vegas Motor Speedway. Curtis, before we let you go on MaxSpeedTV, anybody else you want to thank for this run and this podium finish?
Shout out to Colin. Nice job getting the win today. Appreciate you guys broadcasting like always. Murray for putting on the fun league, and other teammates there at Stonks, Kevin and AJ. It's kind of funny. They were running up front for the first half of the race, and Colin and I were having the issues, and roles reversed at the end there. So you never know what's going to happen.
Top 2 here from Las Vegas going into the new year. Curtis, on behalf of all of us at the broadcast team, thank you for your time. Congratulations on P2 at the end of tonight's race. We'll see you in 2023, and happy holidays.
Happy holidays.
So Curtis Kelly in the 71 ends up the last driver in your top 2. We'll talk to the last driver in our top 3, and that is the number 25 for Drinkin' Bros Racing, and that is Daniel Michel in his Chevrolet, who also had to rebound from a little bit of a struggle earlier in tonight's race. Daniel, of course, a fantastic P3 effort here from Las Vegas. He kind of moved up and down through the grid. Just give us, though, your point of view there from behind the wheel, because on our feed, you're 3 wide for position number 3 coming out of turn 4 in the last lap.
Yeah, it was real tough. I saw an opening. He missed the corner on entry. I tried to keep it low, a little tight. We got together, and I didn't know if I was getting through that clean. So I'm lucky I did. I feel bad that the other guys didn't. There was a bit of net code that was at play there, but honestly, I'm pretty happy with the 3rd place considering how up and down this race was.
I know this race was an all-night affair, so there wasn't really any changes dynamically in the track, but regardless, it felt like a lot of drivers had to deal with obstacles regardless, and with the cautions coming out, the strategy in the mix as well, it felt very confusing for many trying to decipher how they were going to get to the end. For you, what did the blueprint look like? Did you have any certain plan by the time that caution came out and what you were going to try to do to the end?
Well, my plan at the beginning was to hopefully wait for a caution. I knew that the cars get really tight at a certain point, and then as soon as they get tight, people are going to be spinning the tires, getting loose on exit, and I just got really lucky. All the cautions came out while everyone was pitting. It would split the field, and trapped a few guys that were fast a lap down, and helped me get back up to the front after the spins.
So now we move into 2023, Road America to kick us off in January. A lot of other tracks that are going to be very diverse additions to the Season 5 4-Wide Racing Cup Series schedule. Are there anything in specific that you're looking forward to, and how are you going to try to build some momentum off of this finish to try and go for the playoffs?
Well, I know I've started the season off pretty bad, so these 2 top 10s are really, really good for me. And heading to a road course, I know I'm pretty good at them. I can run well. I'm actually looking really forward to the Roval. I know that I'm pretty fast there. I just need to watch myself. And yeah, if I can get to the playoffs with consistent finishes or maybe even a win, that'd be awesome.
Now, before we let you go and get your celebrations here on this 3rd place finish from Las Vegas, Daniel, is there anybody else that you just like to thank? Any team sponsors or really anyone else you want to give the shout outs to after the finish?
I just want to shout out all of DVR, basically all my team. Amazing people. A bit of an issue today. A few of us were arguing, but it's all good. We're all happy. Good finishes all around. And I'd also like to thank all the people hosting and broadcasting, because it's a holiday season and you guys are doing it for everyone else.
We certainly appreciate it. The Cat Marrow comes home in P3. Daniel, thank you for your time. Happy holidays. We'll see you in 2023 at Road America.
Happy holidays to you too.
So that's Daniel Michel in the number 25 to 3rd place at the end of our race here from the virtual Las Vegas Motor Speedway. What a race we had. We had a lot of cautions as well, a lot of chaos, strategy in the mix as well. But ultimately, it was Clutch Colin Forster in the 99. I should have asked him about that in his Victory Lane interview. Hindsight is 2020. But Forster grabs his 2nd win of his 4-wide racing career, at least in terms of Season 5, adds on to the long list that he's built up over his career so far. Just before we end our broadcast here on MaxSpeedTV, this is the last race of 2022, but best believe we are going to be back for the new year in early 2023. In January, we kick off the season once more at Road America, our 2nd road course race of the season. That provided us last season with a stellar finish at the end between Lance Hill and Lawson Peel. Can we see the same? Can we see a new different winner? Who knows, as we try to add more drivers to our playoff list. We head for Richmond Raceway later on at the nighttime, Kansas, Charlotte Roval, Atlanta, New Hampshire, which trickles all the way back to Daytona, where we kicked off the season for the end of the regular season, deciding the drivers that will end up in our playoffs this season. And we start the round, or at least the first one, at Bristol. We chop it off at Pocono, then we chop it off again at Phoenix in the 2nd round to decide our Championship 5 that will fight for the title at the virtual Homestead Miami Speedway. So for everyone involved at the 4-Wide Racing Cup Series, for league owner Tyler Murray and everyone from the admin team and race council at 4Wide, from all of us at MaxSpeedTV, and for my colleague in the booth tonight, Francisco Bacallao, my name is Kenneth Bueno. Saying so long, see you in 2023. Congratulations to Colin Forster on his 2nd win of Season 5. Happy holidays to you and your families. We'll see you back in the new year.